All right, how's it going, everyone? It's Jesse, and you guys are on my Painting with Jesse page here on Facebook and on YouTube. I just want to welcome everyone today. I'm going to give it a few minutes here before we get started. It's just a few minutes before 3 o'clock here in California. Of course, we're starting right at 3 o'clock. About 3:05-ish is when we're going to actually get to painting. Okay, so just wanted to make sure I jump on a little early as I usually do. But anyway, let's give it a few minutes for everyone to get here. First person on, please give me a sound check. Let me know that you can hear me okay. What's happening, Lisa? First comment on the board is Lisa Guarino. How's it going, Lisa? Can you hear me okay? Please give me a sound check. Let me know that you can hear me. Got quite a few people already hanging out, so that's fantastic. Let's see here. What's up, Zaul? How are you? Zaul says, sounds great. Jesse Galentine says, sounds great. All right, cool. Fantastic. Got quite a few of you telling me in the comments that you can hear me, so that's all we really need. So as we're waiting for everyone to jump on, just wanted to go over what we're going to be doing over the next few weeks. I've got the schedule already set all the way through to through middle of May. Okay, sorry, middle of June. We are in May, all the way through the middle of June. But next week, for those of you that are interested, and I didn't bring it, did I? No, I did not. But we're doing, so next week, we're going to be doing the hummingbird, really cool hummingbird event. Next Thursday, I believe it is. So check the calendar for that. But it's a really beautiful hummingbird that I'm going to be teaching you guys how to draw and how to paint. After that, we got this on the board the following week. These little sunflowers with a bee. Okay. Then it's not on the board yet. Coming soon. Hopefully you guys can see this. You sure can. Got this glow in the dark neon piece. Actually, that's probably not till after June, maybe sometime in early July after we do our 4th of July painting. But we got that one there. But we also have this really cool turtle family that's coming up in, I think it's also in June. We got it scheduled for June. Anyhow, that's not all of it. There's quite a few things that are coming up. So you guys got to make sure to go over to the event page here on Painting with Jesse. Go to the top, click on, you should be able to see like a little tab that says more. I believe it's more. It says more. When you click on it, it brings down a little drop down window where you'll see all the events coming up. There's like sorry, you won't see all the events. You'll see an event option. You click on events, takes you to all the events that are currently on the calendar. I think we have maybe 4, 5, 6 more events that are already scheduled. I believe it's 6. So anyhow, you guys go check those out. Okay, if you guys are interested in joining me for those, all the details, all the information, just like on this one, you go to the event tab, the event page itself, click on about. You'll get all the details to each one of those events there. Okay, but all right, who else is on with me? Looks like Tabitha. What's up, Tabitha? Oh, it's actually Sabrina Dales. What's up, Sabrina? Let's see. Carol Roy, how's it going? Carol from New Brunswick. Jessica Duke, happy Mother's Day. Absolutely. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Okay, I'm assuming quite a few are joining in today, or daughters and maybe some sons that are going to be painting this for mom. So welcome to all of you. It is 3 o'clock, so it's the official start time. So let me introduce myself. My name is Jesse. You are on Painting with Jesse, both on Facebook and on YouTube. This video is live streaming to both simultaneously. Okay, on Facebook, you cannot back this up. You've got to play the whole thing all the way through, or you can pause it, but I don't think you could. Maybe you can pause it. I don't remember if you can pause live streaming on Facebook. You're really limited to what you can do there. However, on YouTube, you can pause it, you can back it up, you can jump back up to the front. So YouTube's a little more versatile. So for those of you that are interested in being able to pause as we're going through the live stream, you're going to want to check this out on YouTube. My YouTube channel is the same as my Facebook, and that is Painting with Jesse. For those of you that are interested in going to check it out on YouTube, you have a little time to head on over before we get started. But Michelle Tovar from Houston, what's happening, Michelle? Anna Alfano Beckley from Ohio, welcome back, Anna. Diane Layton, how's it going? Quite a few return visitors today, and that is fantastic. If you guys haven't yet, if you're new to the page, Please make sure you like and follow if you like what you see here today, which I absolutely hope you do. Also, if you haven't yet, let me know where you guys are joining in from. Where are you joining us from? Let us know here in the comment section, and then let us know who you might be painting with if you're painting with somebody. But all right, let's get moving. Let's talk about the supplies for today. So I'm going to be doing this piece on a 16 by 20 inch canvas, basically the same size as what the original one is. There is a little bit of drawing that we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing it right at the very beginning of this. Nothing too crazy. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure that, hold on 1 second. Bear with me just a moment. But anyway, we're going to talk about that a little bit more. 16 by 20 inch canvas, whatever size canvas you have, you'll just have to make adjustments. Doesn't really matter. Also, maybe you're not painting on a canvas. Maybe you're using a canvas board, or you're painting on a wood board, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I know a lot of you like to paint on those mixed media pads. I have a few of those. Those are fun to paint on. You just, when you're done with your painting, once it's dry, you just flip it. You're ready to add another painting to your little pad. Makes for a really cool little collection piece. You also save a lot of space by doing it that way. Canvases can be pretty cumbersome to be dealing with. I'm going to be painting with acrylic paint. Okay, for those of you that might be using colored pencils, markers, watercolors, maybe you're using a different type of medium altogether, chalk, et cetera, absolutely feel free to use whatever you've got. But the colors that I'm going to be using today, and these are just really basic colors. If you have something different, don't worry about it. Use what you've got. You don't have to have the exact same colors that I've got. But I've got a little bit of black, okay, a little bit of black, a little bit of green. Actually, I have a couple of different shades of green. Don't worry about it too much. One's just a little bit lighter than another. You can make a lighter green by mixing it with white. You can make a little bit of a darker green by mixing it with brown or black. I've got some pink. Okay, I'm going to be using some pink, a little bit of purple. Okay, of course, got to have some white. You can see from the background there, I got a little bit of white in there. Then we've got some yellow. Okay, yellow, and then I've got red, and I've got orange. Okay, those are all the colors that I'm going to be using. Again, feel free to use whatever you've got if you need to change things up, or if you desire to change things up. For example, the background or the color of our tulips, feel absolutely free to do so. It is your painting, and I want you guys to be happy with it. Okay, of course, I've got a pencil. I'm going to be using a pencil today to do the drawing. Sometimes I use chalk, but I'll be using a pencil. I have some plates that I like to use as my palettes. This is where I put my colors on, my paints on. I also do some color mixing on this, so that's what I've got. And then, of course, I've got an assortment of brushes, so let's go over those really quickly. These are just a suggestion. If you got something similar, you're going to be okay. You don't have to have these exact brushes. But I've got this 1 inch flat brush, primarily going to be using this for the background for large areas. Okay, 1 inch flat synthetic bristle brush is what I've got right here. Okay, the largest brush in the group. Whoops, almost dropped my brush. I got a little 3/4 inch flat. Okay, a little 3/4 inch flat. Same thing, maybe the flowers, heart, et cetera. Okay. I've got a number, I believe this is number 10 or number 8 flat. Okay. Again, whether you got number 10, number 8, number 9, number 7, all good. As long as you got something close, you're good to go. And then I have a number 8 filbert. This is the cool brush that has the rounded edge up on top. All of my brushes are narrow. Okay. Narrow edged brushes. They're not thick. Okay. So again, filbert, rounded edge. You don't have this one, that's okay. And then I've got 2 small pointy brushes, little tiny, what you call liner brushes or round brushes. These are more like liner brushes. Number 3 and number 0. Okay, one's just a little tiny thing. These are both good for making fine lines. Okay, so that's our brush selection for today. Again, don't stress about the numbers. As long as you've got something similar, you are good to go. I've got a water cup in between steps. Once I start to use my brushes, in between steps, my brushes go and live right inside of this cup. Keeps the paint from drying out and ruining the brushes. Actually, I use this as a rinse cup now. Instead of actually leaving them there throughout the whole process, I use this as a rinse cup. Once I've rinsed the brushes, I transfer them over to I've got this little cookie bin that I use. Probably not the best idea because it does rust. I've got to take the water out of this every time I use it. But in between steps, as an example, once I've rinsed my brush in the cup, I'll take it over and I'll lay it on its side just like that. It actually keeps, if I keep it in my cup, it puts pressure on the bristles, and over time it could damage your good brushes. So just a good idea to have something kind of flat like this where you can lay your brushes at a slight angle. Just protects them, helps them last longer. Use something that's plastic though, unless you want to keep having to rinse that thing out after every use, because it will rust if you do not. Okay, I've got some paper towels, very important. Paper towels clean up messes. Accidents happen, but not just that. I like to use these to clean the brushes in between steps. I'll take the brush out and remove any extra paint with this. I also have a blow dryer. Last of my supplies, I've got a blow dryer here in between steps. I may end up using this from time to time to help the drying process, depending on where you are. Maybe you're painting outside and it's a little bit warm. You may not need something like this. However, it's always good to have it handy just in case, especially if you are in a cold climate somewhere. Anyhow, if we're ready to go, let's do this. Really quickly, just want to talk about how this goes. Okay, Darla Foot, yes. So great question. And if you guys see this question come up in the comments, please help me by answering it for me if you see it come up. This video is being recorded. Okay, as soon as it's over today, as soon as our live session is over, you'll be able to go over to the live tab here on Facebook. At the top of the main Painting with Jesse page, there's a live tab, it says live. Click on that, and you're going to see all the previous events that we've done over the past year. There's about 90 of them now. Okay, this will sit there at the very top because it's the last one that we did. And also, if you'd rather watch this on YouTube, it will be on YouTube as well. Painting with Jesse is the name of the YouTube channel. Okay, so again, if you guys see this question come up, please help me out by answering it for me. I don't always catch these questions. So really quickly, the way this works, I outline a step on my end. I give you a little bit of time to implement it on yours. Usually about a minute or two, just depends on the complexity of that step. Okay, so once I give you a little time to do that step, then I go on to the next one, so on and so forth throughout the entire painting. Please make sure that if you have questions, you put them in the comments section. In between steps, I sit there and look at them and answer as many questions as I can. But all right, if we're ready to go, give me some thumbs up. Let me know, Jesse, and we're good to go. Carol, Roy, either one of them will actually work just fine. Hold them up like this. Look at them and go, which tint would I rather have in my painting? What fits my color scheme better? Okay, but either one of those is perfectly fine. Okay? All right, here we go. I see thumbs up. Let me know. We're good to go. Let's do this. Yes, yes. Let's do this. All right. So the very first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to do this. Boom. Give you guys a better view of what I'm doing on my canvas. Now, if you want to do this with a piece of dark chalk, it's easier to draw with chalk. Why? Because it comes off easily. If you need to make any corrections, it comes right off the canvas with a little bit of water on a paper towel. Let's say I had a chalk mark across my canvas and I didn't like it. A little bit of water on a paper towel comes right off. Also, what's nice about chalk is that as you're painting over everything, if you got some chalk lines that are coming through, those will come off after everything's dried. Like your canvas is all dry. If you see some chalk marks, you can easily remove them with the same way, paper towel with a little bit of water. That is if you have chalk marks. Let's say you paint your background and you draw over the top of it with chalk. You can come back later and erase those if you need to. I'm going to be drawing with pencil today. Why am I drawing with pencil? Because I like to change it up. Okay, I'd like you guys to see that you can do it with pencil also. You just have to be a little more careful with it. Now, if you are drawing with me with pencil, I want to make sure that you're using really light lines. The lines that I'm going to be using on my canvas are going to be darker than what I would suggest you use at home. The reason why I use darker lines is because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, if I did the lines as lightly as I would like, you'll have a hard time seeing them, okay? But here we go. Let's take a real quick look. Let's assess our painting. We're going to start, as far as the drawing part, we're going to draw the little container here. This little, it's a water jug or a cup, right? We're going to draw this first. Okay. Now, what we want to do, I want to point out a couple of things. This middle part, right about where the brim is, that's about halfway up or halfway down my canvas, right? So it's right across about the middle of the canvas. So what I'm going to do really lightly, now this pencil line is going to be really light. I'm just going to come across right here. You guys are going to struggle to see this one, but that's not important. Just know that I've got a little line across the middle of my canvas, just so that I know where the middle, vertically where the middle of that canvas is, okay? Again, that line represents about, it could be the bottom of the brim or the top of the, bottom of the rim or the top of the rim. Doesn't really matter too much, okay? For me, it's going to represent the bottom of that rim. Okay, next thing, from the bottom of my canvas, on my 16 by 20 inch canvas, I've got about 2.5 inches, right? And I'm just gonna mark a few things off on my canvas. I'm just gonna mark a few things. This, just drawing a quick rough line, okay, that represents that bottom edge of my container. Kind of does that. So I'm just gonna curve it a little bit. I'm not too worried about how wide it is just yet. Again, because you want to do it nice and light so you can erase. We'll assess how wide it is in just a little bit, okay? So there's that, okay? We got the top of the rim of the container, and then we got the bottom of that container. Now, how wide is it? On my 16 by 20, it's 16 across, I've got about a 5-inch, it's about a 5-inch width. So I can just come over. There we go. It's about right, okay? So whether you want yours 4 inches, 6 inches, it's entirely up to you. Now, the container does have a slight angle inward, okay? So if you're going to be doing the same type of container, of course, you can change it up. Maybe your flowers are in a vase or, I don't know, whatever, right? They could be in a wagon, a wheelbarrow. It could be whatever you want them to be, a pot. But so bottom edge, now we know also that the edges are going to come in at an angle if you're doing them like if you're doing the same thing I am, okay? So at the top, the inside right here is about maybe 4.5. So I can just kind of bring that over and I just kind of quickly do that kind of a thing. And then it's slightly, what I say, it's going to be the bottom of my rim or the top of my rim. I said it's going to be, I'll decide right now, right here. So I'm using the middle line here to create this curve for the top. So this right here that I'm creating right now, this right here that I'm creating is the rim here. Okay, now if you notice, the rim comes out a little bit, right? So I'm keeping that in mind. Back here, let's see, how big did I make this? Again, just kind of quick eyeball. All right, not too bad. Once I've got the general shape of that rim, I'm going to go ahead and I'll darken these lines up here in just a moment. I'm going to go like this. Connect that. And then over here, I'm going to leave a little lip, right? It comes out because of that edge right there. Just going to, as long as it's kind of at the same angle, they're going to be similar angles here. Just going to do this. And maybe this side has a slight curve. Actually, they both have a slight curve inwards or outwards. So they kind of bow out a little bit, okay? Okay, now I'm going to give you guys about a minute to assess yours, see where you are. I'm going to look at the questions. Also, let me go ahead and I'm going to take a little step back here. I'm going to go ahead and darken up my lines in case anybody's having any troubles looking at them. Again, these lines are darker than what you want yours to be. The reason why you want, especially if you're doing it with pencil, you want to make sure you're able to erase your lines easily. But all right, so this line here represents the bottom of the rim. Okay, these two lines, of course, are the sides of the container, and then we got this line down here at the bottom. Now, here on the original, it's a little bit more pronounced, a little bit more angled, so if you want that kind of a look, maybe I do too. I'm just going to go through here and I erase the bottom edge here, just a slight adjustment, and then I just make it a little bit more pronounced. Comes in at an angle a little bit, comes up a little bit more. Okay, something like that. But all right. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Thea. My aunt's on here. Francis, my Aunt Francis is on. Thank you, Thea. How are you? She's the one that made the comment. I sent some stars. Love it. All right. So here we go, everybody. Next one. Oh, so Darla, it's just a basic eraser. I've got a basic pencil. Thank you for that question because I need to clarify. This is a basic. This is a number 2 pencil. Okay. Again, I'm drawing on canvas, right? As long as you keep your pencil lines really light, you should have no problem erasing. See, I just threw in a couple little really light lines. You probably can barely see them. And I come in here with my eraser and they come right off. Now I'm going to be painting over all of this, right? I'm going to be painting over all of this. So mostly I'm going to be able to cover up my pencil lines, okay, with paint. However, I don't want to contend, especially if I'm doing any light paint. Some of the lighter paint, sometimes the pencil lines will come through. Acrylic paint tends to be a little bit transparent. So please make sure that you are using really light lines if you're using pencil, okay? Yeah, no worries, darling. Great question. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate that. Everybody, anyone, everyone, if you have a question, please ask it. There is no dumb question. Some of you are more experienced than others. Some of you are brand new to this. I want to make sure that I'm answering your questions, okay? So, all right, here we go. Let's continue. So, what we're going to do next is we're actually going to take this line. This is our rim, right? The bottom of the rim. And we said the rim sticks out a little bit, so let's go ahead and add that now. So this little line that comes out, and I just made a little adjustment. I had it up here, brought it out a little straighter. It's going to come up like this. Okay, kind of like that. Give it a little point. Whoop, let me change the view on this. Oh no, we're on the right view. Okay. Little point that comes out like this, right? Now, I'm going to bring this around from this little part right up in here. It's going to come under. Now, I want you to notice this. When I bring this line down on mine, whoops. Actually, let me make a little adjustment, little tiny adjustment. So this curves, okay? This curves a little bit. I can see the edge back here, just a touch behind those branches, behind the stems. So this comes over, comes across, up. Okay, comes up and over. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. The little handle part, little narrow handle right there. Everyone's handle is going to be a little different. Maybe you want yours a little bit thicker, a little bit wider. All up to you. But I'm not going to keep going over the top. I'm going to start here at the bottom. Come over, come around, come under, tucks back in, and connects over there somewhere. Okay, down in here. Once I've got that part of it, I'll go ahead and do the outside. And there we go. Okay. We got the handle in place. Take a look at it. Make little adjustments if you need to. Okay, I'm going to erase this line right here. That's all open in there, right? And we're good. Okay, as far as the container itself, that's all you really need. Okay. We got a nice little flower pot / container right here. I don't know exactly what we'd call that. A little pot with a handle. Let's call it a pot with a handle. It can't be a water jug because it doesn't have a little spout. Although you could, right? You could create a little spout in here. That'd be kind of cool. You could easily change this. You could add a little spout here and have a little opening right in there. If you wanted to make that to a little, one of those little things that you use to grow your water your plants with. Okay. Drawing a little bit of a blank, but you guys know what I'm talking about. So anyhow, you guys got about a minute and then we're moving on. Okay. So take a little step back, always take a little step back. Look at your drawing now from a little bit of a distance, assess. You're able to look at anything, any areas that you might need to correct, any changes that you might want. Water pitcher, that's it. Dollar Cabes, that's exactly it. Little water pitcher. Okay. So again, if you wanted to make that into an actual, something that looks like a water pitcher, you'd bring this out, create a little spout in there, right? Have a little hole on the side, that kind of a thing. So just an idea. Or maybe it's just a flower pot. If it's a flower pot, you remove the handle, you remove this, and you can remove the rim if you'd like, or you can add a rim to it, one of those little borders, kind of little area that protrudes away from the top. You see, some flower pots they come up and they've got a little edge that sticks out and away from the rest of the pot, the little rim part. So there's lots of things you can do with this to change things up. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start painting. What we're going to do, okay, here's what we're going to do before we do anything else, before we do any other drawing. Now, when we get to the flowers and stuff, I'm going to be drawing them with paint. I'm actually not going to be drawing them with chalk or pencil or anything. I'm going to draw those with paint. You can draw those with pencil or with chalk if you'd like, and we'll talk about that more when we get there. But before we get there, what we are going to do is we're going to work on the background. All of this, for me, it's a yellow-orange that's in that background, and the bottom here, the base, the table that this is sitting on, this white area down here, creamy, almost like a lavender, it's nice and light. Okay, so we're going to work on that first. We're going to work on all of that. We're going to start with the background. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I have a little paint plate right here. I'm going to go ahead and grab some yellow. I'm going to put some in there. I'm also going to add a little bit of orange to it. Okay, what we're going to do is this. Now, here's a couple of things. Let's talk about that background for a moment. If you want a really nice, even background, meaning if you look at the background that I've got, you've got all these little, you got a variation of colors in there. You see a variety of colors that are in there, right? It's kind of splotchy a little bit. You see some oranges, some yellows, some lighter, more cream colored areas. If you want a nice, even background, you're going to do it in one step, and you're going to paint with long brush strokes. Okay, if you want a background more like mine, you're going to start like how you're going to start with what I'm doing right now. So I've got a little bit of yellow. I'm going to add a little tiny bit of orange. Not much. Actually, that's probably too much orange. Okay, but we'll see here in just a moment. So what I'm doing right now is I'm creating the base for my background. Okay, and it's going to come on a little bit blotchy, but we will be doing a second layer. Once this first layer dries, we will be doing a second layer over the top of this first base. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is this. Big brush, okay? Yellow, a little bit of orange. I'm going to grab a little bit of orange. I'm going to bring it over like this. I'm going to grab a whole bunch of this orange like this. Now what I want, I don't want a perfectly blended color, right? I want some unevenness in this mixture. So it's going to look a little bit swirly, okay? Some areas are going to be a little more yellow, some are going to be a little bit more orange, and that's okay. What I want to do is I want to ensure, though, that I mix enough to cover all of the area. So about from right in here and here, all that area all the way around is going to be this color that I'm creating now. So if you're newer to this, you want to make more paint than what, so you want to err on the side where you make more paint than what you'll actually need. Okay, if you've got a little bit of experience, you kind of have an idea how much to mix. It's always better, though, to have more than what you'll need than to run out part way and have to remix your paint color, because we're not measuring. We're just kind of putting this paint together, and having to remix the color can be a little tricky. So gauge it, but again, if you're not quite sure, mix more than what you think you're going to need. Okay, that's about the color that I'm looking for. Okay, what I'm going to do now is this. Right across the bottom where I want my edge to be, the edge of my table, I'm going to draw a little line across. Again, I'm using my big 1-inch brush at the moment. Come over to the other side. I want to make sure my table goes across to the other side about the same place, right? My table's nice and flat. There we go. I'll come back and refine that edge a little bit later, but I will take a step back. I'll look at it from a distance. Okay. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm simply going to kind of quickly outline my container, my little pot. Now I'm going to be using these random brush strokes. So not sure if you guys can see this, but my pencil line, I can see it coming through my paint a little bit. Now this is the first layer of paint. And like I mentioned already, acrylic paint is pretty transparent. So I can see my pencil line going through there. That's why I should have erased that, but that's okay. I'm not too worried about it. I'll probably be able to cover it. And I can still, if I really wanted to, I could remove my paint and go in there and erase that line. But like I said, I'm not too worried about it right now. That is why you want to, if you're using pencil, that is why you want to draw with really light lines. Okay, you want to avoid having that issue. So here we go. I went ahead, came around, outlined everything from my horizon line for that table up. And then I'm coming in here. Now I'm using these kind of a random crisscross pattern for my brush strokes. I want my background to be nice and uneven like this. But I'm using this method through the entire process of painting this background. Now I'm going to be doing this in at least 2 layers, and there's a possibility I'll need a third. We'll see what it looks like after I do the second one. But we do a first layer and we let it dry as we're working on some of the other areas, and then we come back, reassess, and do a second layer. Probably by that point, we'll have some flowers to paint around. Now, if you don't want this it's kind of like an uneven background. If you want your background more even, and if you want it with just one color, well, whatever color you're using, if you're blending a couple of colors, you want to blend them really, really well till you have just one color on your plate or whatever you're using as your palette. Once you've got that color, what you'll want to do, and I'm just going to demonstrate it really quickly. So instead of doing these crisscross pattern brush strokes, I would go straight across. Long, even brush strokes. What this does is it gives me a nice, even, clean background. Okay, now here's the trick though, because we're going to be adding flowers to this later, and then if you have to do a second layer, you're going to be painting around your flowers. This straight, long brushstroke pattern won't work, or it'll be difficult if you're trying to do it around the flowers. Like you could do it on the outsides from out here like this, right? You could do it all out here. But once you start getting in between your stems and things like that, it can be really tricky. So if you are doing it like this, before we actually start painting in those flowers, you're going to want to make sure your background is how you want it. Is there enough color in it? Is it as even as you'd like? And if you aren't happy with it, let's say you want another layer, you'll do another layer first over this one before we do the flowers. Okay? But if you notice the difference, this is a much more even looking background. It's a little cleaner, whereas this one's a little bit more, there's more action in this. There's almost movement in that background. Okay? But that's the difference between the two. Whichever one you choose, you want to stick to one. Okay? This one here is a little more versatile. Once I can put my flowers in first, and then I can come back and paint around them, right? Because the brush strokes are random, short, I can modify them to work my way around those flowers. So back up to the top. I'm just going to come back up here and fix this so that my brush strokes all match. Okay? But all right, keep working on your background for a minute or 2 or 3. Now I'm also laying my paint on here a little bit thick. I'm scooping up quite a bit of it because I do want it a little bit thick. Now again, I just want to emphasize, I am going to come back and add another layer of a slightly different color later. You guys see I've got some lighter shades in there, especially when I go around some of the flower petals. I got some darker areas. I'm just going to play with it a little bit. There's a randomness to it. I do like to paint my edges, so I'm going to come around. Once I'm done with the front here, I'm going to come around to the top, take care of that. Again, I just want to wish all the mothers out there happy Mother's Day, happy early Mother's Day. Okay, I don't know if you guys are hanging out to paint this for your mama or your mama is going to be painting this with you. But to all the moms out there, happy Mother's Day. And if my mom happens to be listening, happy Mother's Day to you too. Oh, and my aunt that was on here, happy Mother's Day. I'm going to see all of my aunts and my mom on Sunday. We're actually having a Mother's Day paint party at one of my aunt's houses. So I'm hosting. We're going to be painting. I believe we're going to be painting some birds. There's a couple of options on the table. My aunt told me to surprise her. She picked a couple of them and said, surprise me. So it's going to be a surprise. So anyhow, going to get together with some family this weekend, celebrating Mother's Day. My mom's going to be there. A bunch of my aunts and cousins that are also painting with their moms. So going to have some fun. But again, to all the mothers out there, oh, can't forget, in between the handle, right? On the inside here. Got to take care of that too. And if you need to switch to a smaller brush for this area in here, please do so. Don't forget, there's a replay to this. So if you're falling behind, if some of what I'm saying isn't making sense, or you need to hear it again, come on back. Paint for as long as you can, or maybe I know lots of people like to come on, they'll listen while we're doing this live and they're watching, kind of getting their brains wrapping around everything that's happening. They're formulating a plan of attack, and then they come back and join in with the recorded session. So it's all good. But if you're on here painting right now and you're feeling overwhelmed, don't stress out. Take a breath, relax. There's no perfect. There's just having fun. And just keep in mind, you can come back and also paint with the recorded session instead of with the live. I prefer you guys be on here with the live because it makes it more fun. Makes it more fun for me to see all you guys on here and interacting with everyone. But I understand everybody has a different style, different speed, different personalities, all that good stuff. It all matters. It's all different. So really quickly, just wanted to point something out. I'm sure some of you already noticed it, but when I was painting up here, I had a few little drips land down here. Okay, if you're new to painting, especially when they're kind of fresh, you can take a paper towel if you want to clean something up. Now my water's a little bit wet from earlier. I was practicing on some of the flowers actually. Was a little rusty with my tulips, so I want to make sure I got a little practice in. My water's a little bit red. So just I took a little bit of water on my paper towel, and I'm just going to come in here. Look at that. Come right off. And I could do this with almost any part of the painting. As long as it's easier when the fresher the paint is, the easier it is for it to come off. Okay. I still got a little tiny bit of orange there. I'm not worried about that. I'll be covering that up with paint in a little bit. Margie, awesome. She says, thanks, Jesse. Going to give it to my mom. Awesome. Love it. Charlene, I love mine. She says, it looks good. Awesome. First time here, just watching to get an idea. Awesome, Jennifer. Exactly. So yeah, again, that's what lots of people like to do. They like to jump on and just watch during the live. Gives you a little bit of, of an idea as to what to expect when you jump on and actually do it. So absolutely. Absolutely. Marianne Rideau says, love it as usual. Fantastic. 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 Debbie Sanderson says, nearly midnight here, so going to watch on replay tomorrow. Awesome, Debbie. But okay, so again, I painted my edge. I like to paint my edge. I am painting on a canvas, so I did my edge all the way around first. All the way around, except for down here where I'm going to be doing it in this creamy lavender color when we do the bottom here in just a bit. But you don't have to paint your edges. Some people don't like to. Lori Goff says, I do mine on a mixed media pad and then later on canvas. Fantastic idea. Yes, that's often what I suggest to people. I'll say, if you want to get some practice, maybe do it on a mixed media pad first or on something, something that isn't quite as important to you. Obviously, doing it on canvas is a little bit more serious, let's call it. Canvases tend to be a little more expensive. Maybe you got some nice canvases that you like to use, high quality canvases. So yeah, practice first. I can guarantee you, well, maybe not guarantee, I can almost guarantee that anytime you do a painting one time, you come back and do it a second time or a third. By that third time, you are a master of it. That's how Bob Ross used to do it. So the story behind Bob Ross, for those of you that may not know, and I read this a few times now, is that on his lives, when he was doing his recorded sessions, I don't think he ever did any lives, but during his recordings, remember he would do a painting in 30 minutes, 25 minutes or whatever it was. So he would practice a couple of times. Each one of those paintings, he would practice them first. So by the time he got to that live setting or the recorded session, he was able to bust through it really quickly. His, muscle memory. Of course, he was a good painter, which made a big difference. But practice. Do the same painting a couple of times if you need to. It will get better. Okay. Lilette Butler says, going to make a birthday card for my friend. Her favorite flowers are tulips. Awesome, Lilette. Sounds fantastic. But all right, let's continue here. So I'm going to be using the same 1-inch brush for my floor, for my table. This is for my painting. This is sitting on a table. This is a table covering, right? This right here is a table covering. Yours could be brown, right? Yours could be whatever color you want. So here's what I'm talking about. So what I'll do is I'll use my water cup to clean things up. Now I've got this intense orange yellow background, and I want to remove as much of that paint as I possibly can. So I'll do that a few times, and then I'll come with my brush, my paper towel, my dry towel, and I will remove all the extra, or the majority of the extra paint from my brush. Now these brushes that I'm using, they're pretty good brushes, but they're old brushes, and I can beat them up a little bit. Okay, I'm not using my really good brushes, but just want to, don't be too rough. Don't start yanking on, the bristles. You might pull some out. Take as much of that paint out as you can. Okay, you can kind of do this just to test. Take a paper towel and do that. You'll know when all that paint is gone. So I'm going to do a different plate now. I'm going to go ahead and grab this. Normally I'll use one plate for a lot of mixtures, and I may plate for a lot of mixtures. I may come back and use this again later, but I'm going to set this over to the side. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to mix the area at the bottom, the colors for the area at the bottom. And that's just some white, and I used some purple. I'll show you my purple here in just a second, but doesn't really matter too much what purple you're using. We blend the colors quite a bit, so they end up looking, it turns to almost a lavender color. So I'm using this purple from the Fine Touch. Okay, all it is a basic purple. It doesn't have any fancy name on it. Let's see here. Oh yeah, deep violet is what they're calling it. Deep violet. Okay, and it's this the Fine Touch paint tends to be a little on the thicker side. We don't need a lot. Okay, that's probably more than I'll need, but I do need some for the actual container itself. So that's okay. Just put some there on my plate. Now I'm going to take my 1-inch brush here, and kind of the same thing that I did with the background. Okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna bring some white paint hit down here to the bottom. I'm gonna take a little bit of my purple. Don't need a lot, and I mix it in. I want it swirly. Okay, I do want this to be a little swirly. Now this is a slightly different color than I used on the original, and I'm all right with that. I don't want the colors to be exactly the same in this case. A little brighter. I'm gonna make this one a little bit brighter, but I don't blend the two colors completely. Okay, again, I want some swirliness in there. All right, once I've got that color, I'm gonna start. Now I'm gonna point something out really quickly, and I'm gonna make a change to this piece. So I did the shadow side here at the bottom on the right side, and I didn't even realize this till way after. But the shadow side of my flowers is on the left. Okay, you guys all see mostly the darker part on the stems are leaning a little bit towards the left. Okay, with a couple of exceptions, but so because of that, I'm going to go ahead and switch the light side to the right side. Same thing with down here. The lighter side is going to be on the right. Okay, so starting over here, I'm going to have to remember that now. I get caught up looking at the original, and then all of a sudden my brain takes me back to that one. So again, the lighter side on the bottom here is going to be switched over to the right. Now this is a lot more purple than this is, right? But don't worry, you'll see here in a moment what I do. I'm just going to take this purple and I'm going to come all the way to about maybe the middle part. No, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go all the way across. All the way across with this purple. And again, using brush strokes, slightly different directions, kind of crisscross and short. I want to be able to see my brush strokes in there. This is an impressionistic style painting. So again, I'm using this same color all the way across. We're going to start adding the differences in the shadow and everything else in just a little bit. So let's outline the, there we go. All right. Again, paint's nice and thick. This is not a thin layer of paint. And there are variations here. Some areas a little thicker than others. So this is a little bit more of a lavender color, right? A little more purplish. Now I'm going to take some white. Again, this is my lighter side. And I'm just going to start doing this right over the top. Whoops, a little too much. A little too much exuberance right there. Had some of that white paint fly across. Oh, it didn't land on the other painting. I thought it did. So this is the first layer of paint. Down here also, we're going to do this in 2 layers. We let this first layer dry and we come back and refine this light to dark shading. Now this is one way to shade. This isn't a super, we're not blending a whole bunch. We are blending a little as we come across. There is going to be a bit of a blend as we come across. For those of you that struggle with blending, you guys will see what's happening. So this is all my lighter side, and I can add more of a lighter color over here in a bit. But as I start to come across this way, okay, I start removing paint from my brush. So as I bring it over to this side, there's less paint on here. So already we have a slight transition from a light side to a darker side. I'm just going to take a little bit more purple here, just a little bit. Create a slightly darker shade. There we go. Now I'm going to take this, and it's going to sit over on the darker side. And again, I move it across from, in this case, from the darkest part. I start to move it over, start transitioning over to that lighter side. For those of you that are Star Wars fans, I feel like I'm talking about the Force or something. To the dark side. Okay. So as I move across, there's less and less paint on my brush. I'm not reloading it. So it makes it a little easier. Once I start, the 2 colors, the 2 different shades start to meet up. Makes it a little bit easier to blend. Okay. Take a little step, look at it from a slight distance. Maybe I'll take a little bit more of this purple. Makes it a little bit. Then I'll add a few more of these. All right. We will further refine this in a little while. It's about all I need from mine right now. So take a few moments. We're going to add the same up in here to the to our little container, our little flower pot. Just taking my paper towel here and just gonna lightly dab this. I got a little extra paint in there. So on our second layer, what I'm going to do, when I do a second layer on this area later on, the color is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to add a little tiny bit of black to it, so it becomes a bit more of a gray shade. Okay, and that's going to lay on top of this. Otherwise, this color will be too close to the same color, to the colors I'm going to be using in here. We want there to be a little difference. All right, work on that for a little bit. Awesome, Lori. Lori says, I like to take pictures as I go along to see things a little differently. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. A lot of times when I'm doing portraits, sometimes I get committed. Well, it's been a while, but when I was doing commissions for portraits, I would use picture references, right? It gives you a different look. Person can be standing right in front of you. You're doing a portrait. But if you take pictures, you get slightly different looks. So absolutely. Absolutely. What's up, Gloria? How's it going? Welcome. You're late to the party, but it's all good. Margie says, get canvases at the Dollar Tree. They have lots of sizes. Good. Yeah, you can find canvases lots of different places. I know Walmart was carrying them over here where I lived for a while. Recently, I went in there and their art supplies had dropped. So during COVID, I remember their art supply area just blew up. All of a sudden, they had all these art supplies, and I was like, wow. You know, and then all of a sudden, whoops! It just dropped the lid to my water bottle. All of a sudden, now that COVID and everybody's starting to get out again, the supplies dropped off. Art supplies dropped off. Darla Foot says, if you don't mind me saying, your voice reminds me of Bob Ross. That is funny. Bob Ross. Good guy, Bob Ross. What's up, Lydia Livingston? So it's funny because I remember when I would, a few times when I would sit there and watch Bob Ross, I'd be like, how does this guy, before I ever learned to paint, I grew up drawing, right? I know a lot of you guys kind of know my background. I've talked about it a few times on here, but I would watch Bob Ross and I'd be like, man, this guy busts out these paintings in 30 minutes. How does he do it? Again, he was a very talented painter, but it was also that practice in between sessions that I talked about earlier. He would, not in between sessions, but he would practice a complete painting a couple of times, the exact painting that he was going to do. He would practice it, do it once, twice. I heard 2 times. So by the time he was doing it on the camera, it was the 3rd time. So pretty interesting. That's how I did it so quickly. No, thank you, Darla. I appreciate it. Thank you. But all right, here we go. So take a look at your painting. Take a look at what you've got. We're going to start to add. So right now, my background here is still drying. Okay, I got this area up in here. It's all kind of drying still. I can see some wet marks up in here. Most of it is wet. I mean, most of it is still dry. But I do have some areas that are still wet. I don't want to do anything to that background until it's completely dry. Let's start working in here. Okay, we're going to start working on the inside of our little flower container. So here we go. Here's what we're going to do. Now, what I'm going to do next, still using the same brush, okay, same 1-inch brush that we were just using. I don't need to clean it up. Colors are really similar right now to so the colors in here are still the same as to what's in here. Later, when I do the second layer in here, I'm going to change it up a little bit so it's a little less, so it's more of a purple gray, okay? But we'll work on that in a little bit. And again, the transition is purple to light. So dark side's over here. It's going to go over to the light side over here. From dark side to the light side. So, and I can start with either side, right? On the floor down there, I started with the light first. So that's what we're going to do. I got some of that purple, light purple that I still have mixed in here. So what I'm going to do is this. Just come in here Random direction brush strokes. Again, this is kind of an impressionistic style painting. So the realism, and again, just so that you guys are kind of aware, I'm going to be changing that color on the base down here a little bit. It's a little too close to the color on here that we're using right now. Now, maybe some of you guys are using a different color for this. You might be, maybe you're not using this light purple color. Your color scheme's a little different. So there's one side. We're going to grab a little purple, bring it over. Okay, and I can start over on this edge. Come down. Watch my brush strokes. Watch how I'm holding the brush. Back here near the back of the handle. Now this is a medium length handled brush. There's short handle, there's long handle, little medium length brush. Now I'm just coming through here. Again, I want my paint to be a little swirly. So I'm just playing with this back and forth. Again, this is the darker side over here. Shadow side. There's also going to be that big shadow underneath. Okay. So now I want to take a color that's in between. So in between these two. So here's some white. Kind of a medium. I can do it this way. This is a little different than what I did down here, right? I transition from one side to the other. Here I'm filling the color in, just showing you a slightly different way of doing this. Random direction brush strokes. I work my way over to the left, blending as I go. Two colors start to mix at the edges. This is the first pass of paint. We'll also likely come back. Not likely, we will come back and do a second layer over this. Once we have some of the flowers in there, we're going to come back and do some refinements over here. Short brush strokes, different directions. Unless you want a really smooth finish, then you paint all either long vertical strokes, long horizontal strokes, up to you. Okay. All right. It's all a process. Patience. Any first timers with me today? First timer, as in first time painters, like ever. Kind of doubt it, but if you are out there, let me know. Curious. Okay. So there's a little transition. We got the light side, kind of a medium in here, and then it goes over to a darker side. Now, if you want a little more, if you want your dark side to be darker, then you would just simply take a little bit of that dark color and you can just drop it in and pull it, drop it in, pull it so that it blends with that wet background. So drop it in, again, little drop of paint, start to pull it into the other area that's still wet, like I said. You could also do this dry. It would still work dry also. Kind of like that. Again, watch how I'm holding the brush. I'm just using the very bristle tip of the brush here for this. Felicia, awesome. My first time watching, she says, this would be cute for my daughter's third grade teacher. There you go. Carolyn Gregory. Hi, Jesse. Late but here. Awesome, Carolyn. Denise Lowe, I love your paintings. Awesome, Denise. Yeah, definitely. Bob Ross was fantastic. Dropping a little cloud here, a little tree there. Exactly. Yeah, he's super awesome guy. I have a cutout. I bought a cutout a while back, big life-size cutout of Bob Ross. Just have it hanging around in my studio. All right. For what do you call it? A little bit of inspiration. So here's what I did. I just took a little bit of my dark purple, just the purple, and I ran across the bottom here, just outlined it. Okay. Later that will be more refined. But I'm also going to take some of this purple, and I didn't do it with the light yet. Just going to come in here on the inside here. using the skinny part of my brush. It's going to come up, okay, kind of like that. Little bit, don't need a lot. Then I'm going to grab a little bit of this purple and also dab it in here. Okay. Now I'm going to take some of the lighter color. Again, don't stress out, folks, if you're falling behind or anything like that. Relax, have fun with this. And then if you need to, because you fell too far behind, just come back and paint with the recorded session. As soon as this live is over, I just hit the save button and it goes, and you can find it under the live tab, under the main Painting with Jesse page here on Facebook and on YouTube. Okay, there we go. All right. And if you're having a fun time, if you're enjoying your time here with me, please give the video a like, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube. Okay, the more interaction there is, the more it puts this out for other people to come and enjoy. Facebook and YouTube will put it out to others to come back and enjoy with us. Thank you, Ray, Carol. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the comment. Thank you. Jill Gillespie Green says, my first time watching, my first instruction class. Awesome, Jill. Blanca Silva from Puerto Rico says, I love this painting. Awesome, Blanca. Thank you for being here today. Thanks to you, Jill, also, and everybody else that's hanging out. Just want to say, and I just noticed on my little graphic, the Happy Mother's Day part is cut out. So you guys work on that for a little bit. From time to time, take a little step back, look at your painting, okay? Make sure that you're happy with what you've got. Little adjustments. Well, you don't have to be super happy with what you have. Just give it a chance. But take a little step back, look at it, make the adjustments. Just gonna fix my Mother's Day graphic here in just a moment. I want you all to be able to see Happy Mother's Day. Okay, so hang on one second. So you guys are working on your background, or working on your pot, your little flower pot. Come on, open up. You guys got about a minute, maybe a minute and a half before we continue to the next step. And that is, we're going to start adding some of those flowers. Scary part for some of you. Don't be scared. We're going to be okay. We'll talk about the flower type here in just a moment. The type of flowers that we're going to be making here. All right. Hold on one second. My background's going to disappear here for a moment. Need a new one. I think with this one, we'll be able to see that Happy Mother's Day. It's coming up. It's coming up. There we go. That looks better. Oh, and I just noticed my tulips are cut off. Oh, well, that's no fun. See if we can fix that. Gives you guys a little more time to catch up. Almost there, almost there. So I'm doing my little background. I built it on a website called Canva. And then pretty cool if you guys are into this stuff. Canva is pretty awesome. You do all kinds of stuff with it. You do flyers and promotions and all sorts of stuff. But anyway, that's what I use for this. All right. Get you out of there. Let's try that one more time. Here we go. All right. One more click. Okay, so we've been painting for about an hour. There we go. My little tulips are in better view now. Not that there's a huge difference, but, I like it. Okay. So here we go. So again, as I've already mentioned, we are going to go back and do some refinements. They don't need much. The biggest thing that I'm going to be changing here is the color. I'm going to make it a little bit darker or a little bit more of a gray purple, just so that there's more of a contrast between the two. That's just my feeling about it. I know some of you are using different colors for this. Don't worry about that too much. So what we're going to do next is we're actually going to start blocking in the tulips. Okay. What I mean by blocking in, whenever I draw something, is oftentimes I'll block it in first. I'll put in the general shapes and their positioning, and then I'll refine it. Okay. I'm going to do this blocking in with my paint, which is a little bit dangerous if you're new to painting, because it's harder to fix a mistake with paint, right? Once you have the paint on there, it's a little harder to fix. So you want to be extra careful when you do this. Those of you that have chalk, those of you that have pencils, you may want to do this part with those first. So whatever I do, and I'll explain it as I'm going through here. You'll want to do this part with chalk or with pencil. But if you've been painting for a little bit, and I would suggest that you just go for it and do it with me. Do this part with me with paint. Okay, it'll help, expand your abilities a little bit. It might push you a little bit, but that's okay. So I've got this 3/4 inch flat brush that I'm going to be using. Well, let me transfer. So the big brush that we've been using here is number 1. I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to transfer it over to my little tin, as I mentioned. Let me show you guys once again, just in case you missed it. So I take it from my rinse cup. Got water in here, and I just put it in here, laying sideways like this. Okay, instead of it sitting in my rinse cup like this, with all the weight pushing down on the bristles and damaging them over time, I just lay them sideways like this and reduces pressure on those bristles. Okay, last thing you want to do is you want to make sure you don't let any of that wet paint or that paint dry onto your brushes, because it can ruin them. So I got my 3/4 inch flat brush here, a little 3/4 inch flat brush. I'm going to take, so let's look at these flowers really quickly. We got tulips, but they're a very impressionistic style of tulips. What that means is in this case, they give you the impression, there's brush strokes in there to give you the impression that there's tulips in there. There's not a lot of detail. Okay, there's not a lot of refinement in them. This can be a little bit of a tricky. Some people like to refer this as kind of an abstract style. And while there are some abstract elements in there, the true style is impressionistic. So there's about 4 different colors, maybe 5 in each of these. Okay, so I've got some basic red, and then I've got a little bit of black mixed in with red. I've got some pink, and I've got some purple in there, and some shades in between. Okay, that goes for every one of them. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to take some red, and give me a sec. I'm going to go across the front of the camera here, because I've got to reach over and grab a different plate. So I'm going to grab some red. This is one way of doing this style of painting. There are different approaches. Oftentimes when you've got different shades in a painting, like the different hues of reds and pinks, etc., some people like to start with the lightest colors first, and then, dark first, and then go to light. They put down all their darkest layer first, darkest value first, and they transition to a lighter one. Okay, that's one way, and that works. Some people sometimes like to do the light layer first, and then they start adding in the darker layers afterwards. What I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to find a color that's kind of in between everything, a medium, almost pinkish color. That is going to create the base for what we're going to do. If you're doing purple flowers, if you're doing yellow flowers, you're going to want to create something similar. So a yellow flower might have a bunch of different hues of orange in there, right? Transitions of orange and yellow, and maybe even a little bit of white. What I'm doing right now is I'm mixing white and this red to make more of a, let's call it looks almost like a magenta. Okay. If yours are purple, whatever color you've got, you're just gonna have some variations of that color in there. So here's my color. This is my base. Again, 3/4 inch brush. Before I put any stems in or anything else, I'm going to start blocking out my flowers. So We're going to start with this one right here, almost in the center. Let me take a little step back, make sure it's at about center. So that flower is about right here, okay? About right there. Yep, about right here. So here's what I'm going to do. Using the edge, the skinny edge of my brush. And I'm going to use this to make it like a little cup. Okay. I'm going to do something like that. This is a pretty large flower. So let me see how much space I left in between. Pretty close. Okay. Then I'm just going to kind of look closed off at the top. Think abstract. Let your brain relax a little bit. For those of you that are looking for all the detail and the exact lines and everything else, you got to kind of try to turn off your brain a little bit for that. Okay, because this is a slightly different style of painting. So once I've got that, I'm just going to come in here. Now watch what I do with my brush strokes. So some are a little straight, some go sideways, and there's a randomness to this. And it might be a little difficult to see from the camera, but I can see my little brush strokes going in all the different directions. All I'm really worried about right now is the position, okay, the position and the size of the flower. We can always add more color to it. I can make it larger if I need to. It's always best to, if you're going to err and make the flower not quite the size that you want to make it smaller first and slightly make it as large as you need it to be. If you go large too quickly and you're not happy with it because it's too big, you're going to go, how do I fix it? You have to remove paint from the canvas. Sometimes that'll remove your background paint as well. Okay, so you want to work your way up towards the size that you really would like. Okay, so there's that flower. Next one I'm going to do is the one right next to it on the right. Some people like to, so in something like this, some people would say, I'm going to paint from right to left, especially since I'm standing over on the left-hand side of the canvas. They want to go right to left. And some people would say, well, I like working left to right. Doesn't really matter too much, whatever you're comfortable with. Okay. But so let's look at this one. What's the general shape of that one? They're really close. So again, we're going to make a little, almost like a little cup shape. This one has a little bit more of a V shape. Okay. Comes up like this on the other side. Kind of like that. Again, if you're doing this with chalk, you know, that's probably the safest. Pencil next, then paint. If you got a little experience, just go for it. Whatever you're comfortable with. Okay. And if I'm going too quickly, just keep in mind, you can go back to this recorded session and you can even match me stroke for stroke. That's one way that I learned way back when I was kind of self-taught. Sometimes I would find a video of somebody who was painting and I was able to see brush strokes up close and I would go, oh, okay. And then I would mimic the exact, so as much as I could, the way they were holding the brush. And then I would go, oh, doing the same brush strokes as they were. My brain really quickly was like, oh, okay. So you can try that. For some of you, that may work. So that's over the top, comes over a little bit like that, connect about right in there somewhere. And then here we go. Got my shape, not too worried about not painting all in one direction. I know, again, for some of you more left brain folks, you're probably going, what do you mean there's not this step and then that step and this step and you're this kind of random? What are you talking about? Try to shut that part of your brain off. Just relax a little bit. I'm in some things I'm more left brain, other things I'm more right brain. I'm kind of, I guess in general, kind of down the middle. So I'm able to kind of transition between the two. But I get it, especially growing up when I was first learning to draw. A lot of times my left brain would get in the way a little bit. But okay, so there's that one. Okay, next one. Where do I want the next one to be? So I've got this one over here on the right. Okay, right next to it. Goes down in here somewhere. Then I got the little one right next to that one and sticks out over here. So just kind of gauging really quick. Take a little step back from time to time. Take a little step back. Let me give you guys a close-up. See what we got right there. Okay, nothing fancy. Just putting the flowers down. And we're moving. Okay, next one. This one's almost right on top of the other one. And you could overlap. If you really wanted them to overlap, these two overlap a little bit. There's a slight overlap between these two. Might be kind of fun to give them a little more overlap, but so this one comes down right here, about right here. Goes down like that, comes over, comes back up. Very loose style right now. Okay, again, nothing too perfect or precise. The way I'm holding the brush here towards the back of the handle allows for there to be a little bit more randomness. The further to the top that you hold the brush, the more control you have of everything. Okay, I like this style often. So I got my outline. There I go. Paint that. Again, different directions. I do lay my paint down a little thick here and there just to give it some texture. Okay. But enjoy the process. Relax a little bit. I know a lot of people like to go, oh, no, but it's got to be great. I want to show it. I want to show it off. And cool. I get it. Try to relax, though. Okay. What's up, Ozzy? Yeah. So again, I did that. I did the opposite because I want the dark. So if you notice on the original, on the flowers, I actually have the dark side on the left, and on the shaded side, it's on the right. On the pot, it's on the right. So that was a little error on my part that I wasn't paying attention to. It happens. No big deal. I mean, it's hardly noticeable, but when I went to go do this again, I'm like, wait a minute. What happened? All right, next one. This one over here sticks out a little bit, comes out closer to the edge. So we're gonna start. I'll start here at the bottom, right about right here. Comes up. Zorro, little sword slash. Whoops, got a little too exuberant on that one. You guys see my line came a little further down. I'll either use it. Whenever I do something like that, I have to look at it. Can I use it? Can I modify my flower to make that work without having to erase? Okay, if I wanted to, I could possibly make it work by making the flower larger. Anytime you do something like that, before you immediately go to remove it, take a moment to assess it and say, can I use that? Then remove it if you decide you don't want to. Okay, it could save you a little time. But all right, here we go. All right, it's about the shape of that one. Come over, just fill it in. Again, this color, this value in here, somewhere in the middle of all the colors that I've got in there. You can see a little bit of this peeking out here and there. Okay, this value here, you can see a little bit peeking out here and there. This is in the middle somewhere. It forms the base. I could have started with a darker color. I could have started with a lighter color and worked the other way. Again, there's different approaches to painting. And you could do different approaches all in one painting. Okay. All right. How are we doing, everybody? Thank you, Ozzy. Happy Mother's Day to you and to your mama. Please tell her I said hello. Excellent, Carol. Excellent. Listen to what Carol says, folks. She says, I'm very hard on myself. I learned that it's more relaxing to first paint for myself. No big deal if it doesn't turn out. If it's a success, then show it off. Perfect. That is exactly the approach that I would take. Paint for yourself first. Paint for yourself. Nobody has to see it. There's a little bit of courage, when you show your paintings to other people. Sometimes people are going to criticize. Sometimes the reaction they give you isn't the reaction you were hoping for, but that's part of it. Don't worry about it. Show it off anyway. If you're up to it, show it off anyway. But first, paint for yourself. Okay? Absolutely. Excellent point. All right, next one. Right over here. Okay, this one's sitting over here. I'm going to start picking things up a little bit. Okay, so let's start with the bottom edge. Goes like this. Our little cup comes up. It's a little closer. There we go. Not trying to recreate this exactly, but want to come close. Okay. Fill that in. Fill all this in. There we go. All right. Beautiful, Kathleen. Absolutely. That's it. Even if you're out of your comfort zone, the trick is to enjoy it. Relax. Just relax. Who cares? Who cares? You're going to learn no matter what as you go, even through the frustrating parts. Push yourself through the frustrating parts. The other day I was talking to somebody, I can't remember who it was, but I mentioned that sometimes some of my most frustrating sessions in painting that I've been through, some of the hardest paintings that I've ever done, the ones that made me really struggle to get what I was looking for, were the ones where I learned the most from. Immediately after my paintings after that were easier to do, and there was a huge improvement, even if they were really similar to that one that I had just done. As you push yourself through it, your brain starts to grab it and, and starts to kind of make sense of everything. But you have to push yourself. It's the only way you're going to grow. Let's see. Guadalupe says, hi from Oregon. Nice painting for myself and Mother's. Hi from Oregon. Nice painting for myself in Mother's Day. Fantastic. Happy Mother's Day, Guadalupe. Let's see. Heidi Lou Ham. Hi, Jesse. I'll do this on Saturday. This is Heidi from the East Coast. What's happening, Heidi Lou? Yes, do it on Saturday. Awesome. Charlene says, I drew it with paint and I'm glad I did. They look amazing. All right, here we go. I said I was going to pick it up, but I'm being a little chatty right now. Here we go. Down here, bottom part. This next one over here. It's about right here. Sits down in here somewhere. Got to leave a little space for my stem underneath. There's a little bit of overlap. So here we go. Okay. Ends up about, comes up, over. Again, there's overlap. So paint a little over that one. Comes over, comes down, curls under, and there we go. All right. Okay, there we go. Last one. I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the next one. So this one sticks out a little bit away from the vase. Actually, let's see, over here, about right here. Just eyeballing, but I'm also using my fingers to give me a better reference point. When I go like this, I'm better able to visualize where it'll sit. Okay, there's all kinds of tricks to this. And you'll pick them up as you go along. And different tricks work for different people, and I just went a little too far. Too much exuberance. Again, paper towel, a little bit of water. Don't need too much water on these when you do this, when you got to clean something up. And then a light touch is often all you need, especially if the paint is really fresh. Don't go too hard because you'll start to remove some of the paint in the background, depending on the paint brand, type, etc. Okay, there we go. There we go. That's what we wanted. And I really like this one. I like how this one goes into a little point. I really like that. So, and that's about right there. Okay. There we go. There we go. There we go. I like to call these Bliss Strokes. So when I paint like this, especially oftentimes when I'm painting by myself, especially when there's music in the background, and, I sit there and I just, all the little brush strokes. I just kind of, there's a little bit of an enjoyment when I put down a really nice brush stroke. I call those Bliss Strokes. You'll see them. You'll feel it when you do a little, you do a little something and you're like, oh, that looks really good. Also, it's like a little rush of endorphins, but I call them Bliss Strokes. There we go. All right. So you want to take a look at once you're done with all your tulips, take a look at your painting right from a little bit of a distance. And I know some of you guys are still working on them. Don't worry. Okay, we're gonna be adding some stems here in a little bit. As this is drying, we're gonna come back and start adding stems. Then we're gonna go back, start to add layers on our tulips. We've got refinements down here to make. So we'll see how we move around a little bit. But thank you, Tanya. Tanya, my pleasure. My pleasure, my pleasure. Let's see. Do you ever teach the nicer, more detailed looking tulips that are on your background? Yes, I sure do. So those are they're more of a detailed style, more of a realistic style. Yes, I sure do. I sure do. Okay. And maybe down the road I'm sure we'll be painting some more tulips. There's a lot more tutorials coming, right? So at some point we'll be making some more realistic tulips. So roses, this is just one style, okay? But absolutely, keep your eyes peeled because I add tutorials all the time. Currently I believe we have 6 currently on the schedule after this one, and I'll be adding at least 2 more over the next few days, okay? Yep, I did one on painting roses. All right, here we go. So take a moment, take a minute, get to this point, okay? And then we're going to start, like I said, we're going to start adding stems. So, all right, everybody, how's everybody doing? Let's look at those comments. I've been trying to keep up with them as much as I can. See if I missed anything. Let's see. Yeah, yes, Darla. Just dropping those tulips in there. Jesse Galentine says, I'm doing this with you in colored pencil. It's fun. Yep. Whatever medium you're happy with. There's all kinds of them that'll work. Pastels would be really nice. Eventually, I'll be doing some tutorials on other types of mediums also. There's just so much to cover with acrylic, right? But pastels is a really good one that we'll be doing at some point in the future. I'm going to be doing some strictly just drawing tutorials also down the road. Did I give you guys a close-up of the original? I think some of you guys saw this on a video, but look at this. Look at the glitter on that. I forgot to mention, I do have glitter there I'm going to be putting on these later on. Let me see if I can give you guys a close-up. Look at all that glitter. Okay, so that's what really makes these pop. And look at the little heart down there. It has some glitter on it also. Okay, there's green glitter in here. Got some red in there. So that's what really makes your tulips stand out. Okay. Lisa Guarino says, my flowers are horrible as usual. It's okay, Lisa. You always do really well with your paintings. So I'm sure you're just being a little hard on yourself. You're going to be okay. All right, here we go. So let's talk about the stems. So I'm going to switch. Now, if you don't have this style brush, it's okay. Don't worry about it too much. You can use a flat brush. I'm going to switch over to my number 8 Filbert. Okay, this brush has a little rounded head at the top. You can use a flat brush for this. That'll work just as well. Okay, so I'm going to take some green. Now, I've got 2 greens over here. I got a lighter green and I got a darker green. I'm going to start with the lighter green. Now, if you've only got 1 green, then just add a little bit of white to it to get a lighter shade of that. Or if it's already a really light green, then maybe add a little touch of black to darken it up a little. You can also add a little bit of black and a little bit of blue to make a light green a little bit darker. Okay, we're gonna add some stems. So here's what we're going to do. I dip my brush right into that paint. I press down on the brush against the plate to make the edge nice and skinny. So right here, we're going to start with this one right over here. Now, in here, I'm just actually going to do this. Really keep this really nice and thin. Just going to add some green in here. Kind of do this. Okay. Kind of keep it narrow. Keep it narrow. Here's the edge as it wraps around the back. But we want to keep this green in there. Okay, a little darker here in a little while. But start with that. Then, so I've got a little stem that's going to start right there. Let's see if I can do this holding it up. Little stem right there, and it's going to come across. I'm using my finger to support my hand. Okay. This filbert is really good for these straight lines, straighter lines. Whoops. And I'll have to make adjustments to that tulip a little bit because that stem doesn't quite. Here, we're going to fix it a little bit. I don't like the angle of that stem to the flower, but we'll make it work. Often it's all about making adjustments. Little adjustments as we go. Okay. There we go. Next stem. This one right here has just dropping a little bit of paint right there at the very edge. The bottom that's comes down over. Down and into the top of that pot. Right here. Okay, and again. Okay, one in the middle. What's up, Kinkini? How's it going? From Australia. I know you're back. Fantastic. Rachel Kowalski says, I love pastels and pen and ink. All fun mediums to work with. Okay, just adding more stems. Skinnier the better. Make them as skinny as you possibly can. Then you can always add a little thickness to them. You can always just, make a really skinny line and then add to that. Okay. Let's start adding some leaves. One right here. Okay. And I fill that in. Remember, later we're going to come in and shade in some of the inside. So it darkens things up. I'm going to have a stem, a little leaf that comes out this way also. Big one that pops out right here. Again, if it feels like I'm going too fast, do your best to keep up. And then if you fall too far behind, just come back and paint with the recorded session. So I've got this stem right here. There's a leaf back that goes kind of behind it. It's going to be a little hard to see for now, but later when we start adding some darker shades in there, different shades, different values of the greens, you'll be able to see it. Got another one that comes out like that. We got one, let's see. Yeah, we got one right here that kind of wraps over like this. This one has a slight curve to it. They're all kind of falling into each other, right? They're all kind of blending in with each other, and you're not seeing separation between stems and leaves here at the moment, but you will once we start to add some of the other shades. Here's another one right here. We want to create a little bit of density in there so that the tulips don't look like they're just floating on a stem, little skinny stems. We got one right here, comes out like this, comes back in, using the skinny edge of that brush in case you hadn't noticed just yet. That means I also have to kind of give this a little bit of thickness. Okay. Then it goes up. So I love Impressionism. Okay, I love impressionistic styles of painting. Some people like realism a little bit more. There's so many different styles out there, right? I did a few weeks ago, I did a tutorial on Impressionistic Roses. And for those of you that weren't here, let me give you a quick. So these are Impressionistic Roses. Let me give you a little close up. If you guys are interested, you can go watch this. Okay. It's in the live tab on Facebook and then also on YouTube. But I taught you how to do those as a pre-prep. When we did the actual painting, we also did a pre-prep video the week before or a few days before. I can't remember now. But yeah, there's another one right there. A big leaf kind of popping up. But I love Impressionism. Realism is cool too. I like it a lot too. And a lot of I have when I first started to paint, I first learned realism, and then I slowly kind of learned Impressionism. But something about Impressionism, Degas, Van Gogh, those are some impressionistic painters. Portraitists tend to be a little more into the realism part. Realistic painters. When I do my portraits, I use that style. Although there is some impressionism in there with my brush strokes. Okay. All right. So there's all my stems. Again, there's only one shade in there right now, one shade of green, which I'll be coming back and adding other colors in there to make the mixture that eventually looks like this. As I'm doing that, all my tulips, the paint on my tulips are drying. And by now, all this in here is dry also. Okay, so take a few moments, get your leaves and your stems in there. You guys got about 2 minutes. I know there's a lot of work in here. And then we got to move on. But if you're, again, just want to keep emphasizing, if you're a little bit behind, just do your best to keep up. And then we'll come back. Okay, cool. You did the umbrella painting, Kinkini. Fantastic. That was a fun one. It was tough for a lot of people. What's up, Hannah? How are you? Yeah, Monet's an awesome. His paintings were amazing. A lot of impressionism there. Impressionistic styles tend to be, better appreciated at a slight distance, right? If you're up really close, you see more of the brush strokes and all the noise that's inside the painting. But as you step away, it becomes something that is better able to be appreciated that way. One of the realistic styles that we painted not too long ago, those of you that joined me for the cardinals, let me show you guys those really quickly. Let me grab that painting. It's over on the opposite wall. Give me just a second. But we did the cardinals in winter. I think we did this one. Whoops, almost dropped one of my other paintings. It might still come down. We did this one about, was it February, January? I can't remember. But this is a little bit more of a realism style. Let me give you a close-up. Taught you guys how to draw those completely from scratch and then how to paint those. And there's a little close-up. The birds are more of a realistic style. Okay. If you're interested, same thing. It's both on Facebook and on YouTube. All right. Now I'm going to put it here on the floor before I go, and I'll go hang it up later. But okay. So let's continue now. I am going to take a quick moment. I'm going to take a little bit of black. And, whoops, let's see here. Give me a second. Let me grab just a touch of black. I'm going to add a little bit of black down there at the bottom of the base. No, you know what? Nope, let's not do that. Well, we can always add that later. So what I am going to do here really quickly, for those of you that are going to do this little step, I'm going to add my heart to my little flower pot. Just going to grab one of my little round brushes, number 3 in this case. I'm going to draw it first. Again, if you'd rather do this with your chalk or your pencil, feel free to do so. I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger. Okay, there's one side. Actually, I'm going to bring it over a little bit more centered. There's my center, about. Then it's just symmetry, matching one side to the other. You can always adjust it if you don't get it quite right. There we go. Okay, once we got that, take a little step back. I'm just making adjustments. I'm going to take my number 5 flat brush, and I'm just going to fill it in. For those of you, don't forget, those of you that are new, lots of events on this channel, on this page. Got about 90 past sessions. About 30, 35 of them are for are kid-centric. So if you have some kiddos that would like to learn to paint, you can go check those out. I do a lot of those incorporate some drawing in them, so some people like to partake of the drawing part of it. There's drawing and painting, but there's some for all ages in there. More adult-centric because of the complexity of the pieces. If you guys are interested in checking those out, once again, go over to the live tab on the main painting with Jesse page and check that out there. All right, made my heart a little bit bigger, wanted it to stand out a little bit more. Just going to refine it a little bit here. All right, wanted to get that in there before we continued. Okay, so work on that for a moment. That's just a normal red. Great question. All it was just a basic red. Okay, didn't add anything to it. It does mix in with some of that background. Okay, now really quick, I'm going to talk about this. You guys can listen as you're painting. Oftentimes, I'll paint my background first before I draw or paint. Sorry, before I draw. Okay, I'll paint my entire background. Like, say, for example, I could have gone through and did my yellow background, and then I could have done the bottom, and then I could have painted over the top of that. We drew first, right? We drew the pot first, and then painted around it. The reason why I specifically did it that way in this case is because I was going to be putting the pot over 2 different colors. If I would have painted my background entirely in first, and then it would have came in with my pot, put it over that, I would have had to fight with 2 different colors of background. This orange yellow that's back here would have bled through the colors that I laid down in here, especially the light colors, and I would have been able to see a difference between this and between this, which would have been over this light lavender color, right? So again, if I would have painted the background in first with both my orange, yellow, and the purple, white down at the bottom, when I painted in my pot, I would have been having to contend with 2 different color backgrounds, and I would have had to have messed with this color in the background to make it cover up all of that orange. It would have been a little tough. So we drew it first, drew it first, and then painted around it. Okay. Again, just in case somebody's wondering, Jesse, sometimes you will paint the background first and then you draw over it. Why did you paint the background first this time? Or why did you draw the pot first this time and then paint around it? That's one reason. Okay. What's up, Gene? No, so this is just basic red. Kinkini, this is just basic red. So yes, the red for the flowers is a mixture of red and white. So it's a lighter color. This is just the red. Okay. But all right, here we go. Now, by now, before we refine down here, by now, my reds in here, all this is dry. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just red. Okay. And I can, let's see here. I'm going to use my 3/4 inch flat brush. Okay. 3/4 inch flat brush. Just going to grab some red here. Not mixing with anything except if it's a little dry, maybe a little bit of water. I'm going to come in here. Now there's a little bit of randomness to this again. I just want to make sure everybody understands that. So my dark sides are all on the left side, right? Okay, so just taking and adding some red over to the left, maybe a little bit here and there, right? There's petals overlapping. Okay, same thing over here. We're layering here. This is what creates a really cool, all those different colors that you see in the painting. Again, if you want to match me brushstroke for brushstroke or get close to what I'm doing, you can. Or do your best, but don't stress about it too much. As long as you're close, you're going to be okay. So this is the next darkest red. Okay. Maybe a little bit over here, a little bit up there. I want you guys relaxing. Enjoy it. Here. Here. Pick your spots, but this is all mostly on the left-hand side of your flower. Same side as your shadow down here. Okay, and then again, I like to add a little bit on the right. Just a touch here and there. Okay. When you're all done, please make sure you send me a picture of your paintings. Okay. Send them to me here on Messenger on Painting with Jesse, or you can send them to me if you're on YouTube. Send them to me by Gmail. My Gmail at paintingwithjesse@gmail.com. Okay, please send me your masterpieces so I can share them with everyone. Everyone gets to see what everybody else did. We're all painting the same thing, but everybody's piece ends up looking a little different. Now, on this flower over here, my shadow moves over a little tiny bit because of the way that it's facing. Just a little bit. My shadows get a little more on top or on this side. But again, nothing to worry about too much. Disregard what I just said. I don't want to confuse anybody. Keep it more towards your left. We're not trying to be perfect here. So again, just keep it slightly more to your left. Okay. So take a few moments on that. Sounds good. Sounds good, Kinkini. Oh, look, I just dropped a gob of red down here. Let's get rid of that. Clean it up. Okay. Just found a clean spot on my paper towel. All right. Okay, couple minutes. All right, Lisa, noted. I'm sure it's going to be just fine. Yeah, Dwena. So that is a slightly different style. Okay. Well, not slightly, quite a bit more of a different style. There's just more realism in that. Like I said, some people like more of a realistic look. Some people like more of an impressionistic. Some people like both. Some people like abstract, right? Some people like abstract paintings. Those I don't get as much, although sometimes I see some pretty amazing abstract stuff. Um, so many different tastes out there. Some people like stuff like the Spanish painter, or what's his name? Cubist guy. What's his name again? Picasso, right? Not my cup of tea. I understand, for his time and everything else, super talented. But there's just so many different styles of painting out there. But as you grow with painting, I think you'll start to explore other mediums and other styles, things like that. So awesome. You got it, Karen. My pleasure. But okay. All right. So while we're here, I'm going to take a little bit of black. Same brush, same red that we were just using, that deep red. I'm going to take a little bit of black. Let me don't need much black. So if you pour out some black, just make sure it's a little tiny bit. I'll show you here. Probably gonna end up pouring more than what I actually need. Yep, sure did. But you just need a little tiny bit of black. I've got this area in here. I'm just gonna take a little bit of it, a little bit of black, mix it in with some of my red here. I make it a little bit blotchy, not a perfect blend. It's gonna become a little bit more of a kind of a darker, almost purple burgundy color. Okay, swirly, slightly, and my black is running into my white over there, which is it's okay. Okay, this is the darkest, the darkest part of our flowers. So again, the shadows on this side. And I totally get it. For some people, impressionism is a little hard to get. And if you're a little more left brain, it might also be a little hard for you to paint in this style. Whoop, a little bit too much water in my brush. Let me take care of that. So I've got lots of water in that brush. So I'm just taking my paper towel in here at the base, squeezing it so all that water comes out. And then if you're going to be adding glitter to your painting, that also creates a really cool finisher. If you don't have glitter today, you can always order it, or you can always go buy it. I'll show you the glitter types that I use for reference. If you have glitter though, well, good. Okay. So again, just going to go through here and add some of these dark areas to my tulips, concentrated towards the left. And there we go. Okay. Right here. Now remember, these two overlap a little bit, so I want to be careful there. Maybe a little bit at the top there. Right up here. Let's see here at the base. As I'm going, I'll just grab a little bit of red, mix it with that black here at the base. Again, very loose style. I'm just picking some kind of random spots, but I'm trying to match my original. All right, over here. So I mentioned we're going to adjust this flower over here. So there's not such a bend on this one away from the stem. It looks like almost like the stem is coming out this way and the flower is bent like that. I'm just adding a little bit more thickness here at the base, and that fixes that. Drawing a little bit of a darker line over here on this side, just a touch. Look at your painting from a slight distance. Just going to grab a little bit more red, make a slightly lighter version of this. And I'm just going to touch up little areas with a slightly lighter color. I have this one painting for those of you that are newer, especially for those of you that are following the page. I don't have a date for it yet, but it's a painting. So it's a lot simpler than something like this, but for those of you that want to practice your thin lines and trees, the other day I put a little kind of a questionnaire on my Facebook saying, hey, what are you guys having trouble with? What is it you'd like to, or what are your difficult parts of painting? What are your, strengths and weaknesses? So a few weeks, I'm going to do this painting. Let me show you guys. Again, simplified version. However, a simpler style, but it'll allow you to work on things like thin lines. A lot of you guys said that your thin lines were hard to work with. Trees were a difficult point for some of you guys, and water. Now, this water isn't super realistic, okay, but there is a little bit in there so that you guys can practice a little bit. I have this is a simpler style of painting. Okay, I'm going to put this up here pretty soon. I'm not going to advertise it like I do all my other sessions. I want to kind of strictly make it for those of you like a learning session, like more of a simpler session. And I might even do this one through Zoom. But keep your eyes out because I'll be posting that information sometime. And I don't know. I can't remember how many people can join me on Zoom. I think it might be like 300 maybe. So I don't think I'll have that many, but it'll be free just like this one. But just a little bit of a kind of a learning session for everyone. You guys can show me your paintings as we're painting. I can give you some tips. Maybe I'll just cut it off I don't know. We'll see. But anyhow, just so you guys know. So this little bit of a lighter version of this red that I just created, this darker, almost burgundy color that I had in there. I lightened it up a little. And I'm just coming in here and adding some to the opposite side here and there, just picking my spots. Again, there is a randomness to this. Just look at it and kind of poke around a little bit. All right, Susan, good. So just keep your eyes peeled because I'll be posting that. Oh, and I need to switch views here. There we go. Okay. Okay, good. Yep. So keep your eyes out. I'll be posting that here pretty soon. The information on that. Probably not for a month. It won't be for a month or so out, but it's a simpler painting. we can take our time and work on, some technique. Just focus a little bit more on technique. I know that this style of painting, while you are learning, especially for those of you that are less experienced, this is a little bit more past many of your comfort levels. So you kind of push yourselves a bit. And again, that is good. It's good to push yourself. You will learn. You just have to trust the process. Pushing yourself, making yourself uncomfortable, even making yourself a little bit unhappy from time to time. You might go, I don't appreciate this. I don't like this. We are our own biggest self-critics, right? We're our own biggest critics. But trust in the process. You push yourself, you will get something out of it. Even if it's something that you don't necessarily end up enjoying, right? Stuff like this will push you. Stuff like this, and I'll be adding more stuff like that, and I'll talk about it when I put it up and describe it. I'll talk about, hey, this is a really good learning tool, especially for you more beginners or more of you that are, more on the novice side. And that's most of the people that paint on here are, right? But if you got little experience, those are good to learn on. You're able to work your fine lines, your, curved edges. So I'll have more of these to make it a little bit easier for a lot of you. Okay. Let's see. But okay, everyone. So take about 2 minutes on this. Let me give you a close-up. Look at this. From a distance, again, if you look at them from a distance, they're already starting to look like tulips. Because of the style, as you get closer and closer and closer, you start seeing all the individual brush strokes, and it doesn't quite look as nice. That is very normal in this. Again, tell your brain to relax a little. Tell your brain, hey, take it easy, buddy. Okay, again, we're going for a similar look to this. Again, up close, you're able to see all the brush strokes. And again, I love that. That's the style that I really, really enjoy. But, there's an appreciation there that you have to have for Impressionism. In any case, all that glitter and stuff, for those of you that decide to add it, will make a big difference. Okay, but all right, take about another minute with that. What's up, Pamage? How's it going? Pamage is in the house. Donna Helm says, I'm in for a practice session. I believe that's what you're saying is part of your, there you go. Yep, I'm in for a practice session. Cool. Too funny, Don. Don says, I think I need to look at mine from the moon. Too funny. It's all right, Don. It's okay. Be easy on yourselves. Be easy on yourselves. It's all learning. Okay. But okay, here we go. A little bit of green, a little bit of black. So I'm going to take my dark green now. I got a little bit of this dark green I'm going to be using. Again, if you don't have dark green, don't worry about it. Add a little touch of dark blue if you've got it, and a little touch of an even smaller touch of black, and you'll darken your green up. You can add a little more black as you need it, but work slowly when you're putting in that black. So back to my, I forgot to put my brushes back into my little bin over here, but I got to grab my filbert now. Okay, filbert brush has red in it. Let me clean it up. Okay, right, my little number 8 filbert. Now I'm going to take, here's my green on my plate. I'm going to take a little bit of black, mix the two together, do it a couple times. Okay, and I could leave it a little swirly also. Whenever I say swirly, I mean I can see both, a little bit of green, a little bit of black in there, shades of this color. Okay, so remember, actually on my stems it doesn't matter quite as much because they're under the tulips, but the shadow side just kind of concentrated a little bit over to the left. Okay, so here we go. The bottom obviously is going to have a little bit of a shadow. So here we go. Okay, maybe a little bit there. Don't look for perfect. Look for fun. Perfect will come. Well, or maybe not perfect, but good will come as you get better. Okay, so just coming through here and adding some shadows. Now my stems are going to start popping out. My leaves. Okay, let's see here. Actually, this one's going to go, yeah, it's going to go up a little higher. The swirliness allows both colors to kind of have different, you see some variations of those colors in my brush stroke. When I put some of that paint down, I'm able to see a little bit of both. So here, any stems that you want to be a little more prominent, make sure you outline those. You definitely darken those. If it's something that's further towards the back, there might also be a little bit lighter. They could be a little lighter if they're further back. Like this stem right here is in the front. This has a bit of a shadow on the bottom. Okay. My pleasure, Charlene. My pleasure. Thank you. Again, it's all about practice. It really is. It really is about practice. Just trust, trust, trust. Go for it. Do your best to enjoy it. I know that it can be hard, especially if you're low on time. You got a busy life, busy schedule. It's not like you can sit there painting all day long, right? You've got maybe a couple hours a week, a few hours a week. So you'd like to get the most out of it. But it really is a thing of patience. And everybody starts at a different level, right? Everyone has a different set of tools you've accumulated over the years. So again, I'm kind of being selective. The prominent stuff, I give a little bit of a darker, this darker green. So it comes into the forefront a little bit, the foreground. And some paintings are going to be harder than others. Some paintings you're going to look at them and go, oh, that's easy. That looks easy. And then you go and do it and you're like, oh, not as easy. And then there are paintings you're going to go, oh, that's really hard. It looks hard. And then you try it and it's not so much. In between all those, you're going to find your style, you're going to develop your technique, etc., etc. Okay, so now I just took a little bit more. In this case, I just grabbed a little bit of the light green and mixed it in with some of this dark green and black. Swirl it. Want it swirly. Just going to, some of the ones that are further back, and you're going to have some of this. That stem on that one, maybe that flower is a little bit back. So let me ask you, those of you that are painting with me today, and those of you that have painted, those of you that have been painting with me for a while, and those of you that have been painting with other people, doesn't really matter too much. My question is this. So during COVID, when COVID was really, crazy, especially during the holidays and things like that, I was doing 2 and sometimes 3 sessions a week. Now I'm back down to 1 a week. Sometimes I'm still able to get in 2. Is it overwhelming to have more than 1? Do you guys like for there to be more than 1 because it gives you more options? Please let me know in the comments. Do you guys, just what is your particular feeling? So I'll say this: the more sessions that are there, the more options you have, right? But I think sometimes some people look at them and I got to do every single one. What do you feel? More is better. Now I'm just taking almost black, and I'm just going to come down in here at the bottom. Okay, just going to still working with my filbert brush. No, Gene, I don't. I don't have a membership. I actually have been playing with that idea, to be very honest. You know, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm still always going to have a free component. I like the people can come on and paint with me, and you know. But yeah, I've been considering, but getting more involved with the lessons part of it, more into you know, learning the painting element. With the classes that I've got now, people learn simply by doing. Sure, I'm instructing as we're going, you know, but the finer little techniques, the points, you know, those sometimes get lost. If sometimes we focus just on, like, let's say clouds for one 30-minute session, fine lines on another 30-40-minute session, that kind of thing. Those are really good too. Okay, but lots of you are coming in here. Okay, more is better. Allows for choice and skill level. Fantastic. Grandma Carol says, I like the options. I enjoy time with you. I don't do all, but I've tried many. Awesome. Awesome, Grandma Carol. Thank you so much. I know I've seen you on here plenty, and we've talked over Messenger a couple times, so fantastic. Okay, good. The variety. Yeah, and that's what I feel too, right? The variety gives you more options. Sometimes some of you are going, looking at some of the painting options, and you're going, not so much on that one. And then another one, you'll go, oh, I really need to do that one. So yeah, just trying to figure things out here. Okay, so here we go. Let me give you guys a close-up. I want you guys to take a look. Okay, there's a little darker area down at the bottom, right? You're going inside the pot. Maybe you got a little bit of potting soil there at the top. I mean, I don't know that you'd fill it up all that high, but it gets darker in there, right? Because it's inside that hole. I'm not although I do water the plants at the house. I'm not much of a gardener or a botanist, is it? So, all right, just coming through and adding a few little lines that come out here and there. All right. All right. We're getting there, folks. We're getting there. Okay. Okay, good. I see a lot of people saying variety is good to choose from. I do. Anna says I do the one I like, and I'm learning to do some on my own. Fantastic. Absolutely. Yes. What I would like to say is this to some of you. Once you've developed some confidence, once you've gone along and you've developed some of your confidence, and you're like, what you want to do is start working with reference pictures. You'll find a picture that you like. You're, you know, going through the internet. I was about to say you're flipping through a magazine. I know magazines aren't as big as they used to be, but you know, I'm sure plenty of you still look at magazines. Or you're on the internet, and all of a sudden a really nice picture pops up, and you're like, oh wow, that would make a really nice painting. You could, and I would definitely encourage it. You will push yourself again. You take that picture. Now, if it's a copyrighted picture, you want to be careful, right? This is just for you. You're not sitting there trying to resell these things, because you could get in trouble. I mean, just putting that out there. Do it for yourself. Take a picture you find as a reference, picture of a flower, a real picture, and then turn it into a painting on your own. Work with your background first. Maybe draw it first. As you start to push yourself, you will develop your techniques. You will use the techniques that we teach here, that I'm teaching you here, and that you'll see your brain will start to click. Okay. And as you see, we go from broad to more specific. We take the broadness of the background, unless we're drawing first, we take the broadness of the background, starting with the background, and we slowly start to refine little by little by little. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Charlene. I probably would have forgotten. Yes. So let's do that now. I'm going to take a little bit of red and a little tiny bit of black, right? Just kind of a darker red, just basic, just the regular red, a little bit of dark. And over on the left side of the heart should be a little bit shaded, kind of like the original. It's on the opposite, but over on this side, right, where the shadow side, the shaded side is. You'll want to come in and add. I'm using my filbert brush, using mostly the point of the bristles, the tip of the bristles. And what I'll do is, as I come over to the side, start coming over a little bit. I don't do it too much, just a little bit. Start on the furthest edge first and slowly work your way inwards a bit. Okay. And if you need to, take a little bit of red, just a little tiny bit of just red, and just on the very edges of that dark area that you just added, just to, if it's too harsh, if it's too defined, just lightly touch, feather over it a little tiny bit to minimize the impact. Now, if I wanted to, I could bring this shadow over a little bit more, and then I would bring that dark shadow even further out. So now I'm going to bring a little bit less of that shadow over. So I just want a lighter version. This color that I just added in here, I just want a little bit of a lighter version. So it's red, a little less black this time. So it's going to be a color, and I'm eyeballing it. Might have to play with the color a little. A lot of it is, once you start to paint for a little while, it becomes kind of intuitive, right? Your experience kicks in, and you know more or less, without really thinking about it too much, how to mix a darker or lighter version of what you just made. So this is just a little darker than this, but it's a little lighter than that. Darker than this area, but darker than that. Or sorry, let me repeat that. Lighter than this, but darker than that. I know you guys know what I was saying, but I was getting a little tongue-tied. All right. There we go. A lot of little nuances within this. And if you're new to painting, if you're painting with me and you're really new and you're getting a little frustrated, just relax a little. Again, you're pushing yourself. This is not a super easy painting to do. I think that on my difficulty level, I think I posted this one would be about a 6 out of 10, right? And that, and mostly because of the impressionistic elements and almost abstract elements that are in there. Awesome, Arlene. I love hearing that. Absolutely. Good to hear. Please come back. Okay. Please come on back and paint with me again. Of course, like I said, paint on your own. That's just what you want to do. But okay, let's go back to our flowers. I have not forgotten. We got a shadow to add down here, right? It's going to be on this side. I'm going to be changing. For me, I'm going to do it all at once. I'm going to change the values in here to more of a gray color, slightly gray color, more gray purple instead of a lavender purple. It matches this too much, but I'm okay. Good, Donna. Fantastic. Be excited. Be happy. We're having fun. And, a little enjoyment with art. Nothing wrong with that. But okay, here we go. Back to our flowers up here. So let's start adding some of the lighter values, some of the pinks and the even purples that we've got in there. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to grab my 3/4 inch flat brush that I was just working with. This guy right here. It's got a little bit of red in it. Doesn't matter because I'm going to be using some of that anyway, so I can clean it up. I'm just going to use my paper towel and just remove some of that excess so it's not too much paint. So I've got I'm going to start with a purple. I've already got some purple mixed over here, right? I'm just going to grab a little bit of this. I don't want it that dark. I want to brighten it up a little. So I'm going to take a little bit of white. I'm going to do this. Okay, maybe a little darker than that. I'm also going to take just a little touch of the red, a little tiny bit. Just a touch. It's got a little bit of red there on the tip of the bristles. Before I actually add it to the mixture, I'm going to put it over here to the side. I check the intensity there. How much do I have on my brush? All right, there we go. So what I'm doing is, as I'm adding this red, I'm tinting that purple slightly red. After all, these are red tulips that I'm using, that I'm painting. Now, if you were painting orange tulips or yellow tulips, you'd have a combination, again, as I mentioned earlier, of those colors in there, variations, slight variations. But here we go. Okay, light side, right? So let's see, I'm going to start with this one right in here. Just going to come in and drop a little bit of there. Okay. Let's see, where else on this one? I think we're good with that. Here. Pick our spots. Okay, maybe down in here a little bit. I do want to let you guys all know, kind of make you understand that the glitter is a big component of this. You don't need it, but that glitter goes a long way to having a really nice impact on the overall finished product. If you've never worked with that glitter paint, stick around towards the end. I'll show you guys. I'm going to be adding glitter over the top of everything. So I'm going to come in here, maybe a little dab in there, a little bit there. Okay. Let's see. I'll add a little bit in here to that one. These are those little highlights, got a little light coming down, hitting the flower, reflecting a little bit different. Okay, over here. Watch my hands, or my hand, watch my brush stroke. Watch how I hold the brush. Okay. All clues. Come back over on this side. A little bit right there. Okay. Here. Over. Have fun with this. Have fun with this. I know I don't have to remind some of you guys. Some of you guys are just, oh, heck yeah, I like this. But even if, again, even if you get a little frustrated or whatever, have fun. Just enjoy it. Anyway, okay. So let me give you guys a close-up. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. They're starting to really kind of stand out, right? They're starting to look like the originals. And somebody has a question. Let's see. Duina says, when you were doing, sorry, let me see. Something's blocking my view of your comment. Let's see if I can adjust. When doing the leaves, you shaded the areas that the sun doesn't hit, but some you didn't shade at all because they are further away. This seems to be perspective thing. Even though it's further away, should they have a little? They could. So, and I'm not done with the shaded areas in the black, or sorry, in the stems and the leaves. So in a little bit, I'll come back with an even darker hue and add some touch-ups here and there. But yes, great question. So there's a couple of things going on. Anything that's further back, let's say you're looking at a mountain range, and you've got a set, sometimes you got some of the hills, some of the mountains that are further up in the front and some of the ones that are further back. They're all the same color, but the ones in the front are going to be a little bit darker. The ones that are in the front, in the foreground, are going to be a little darker than the ones in the back. As things get further away from you, they lose a little bit of the, they can kind of get washed out a little bit. So even though we are kind of close to the flowers, there is a little bit of that here. The flowers that are in the front are going to have a lot more detail. And sometimes some of that can be made by doing two things. A slightly darker color than what you're working with, and then also a little bit more detail. You can make it look like something's behind something by washing it out a little bit and by making it a little bit lighter. Excuse me. Let me take a drink of water here. Where is my water? Over here. Excuse me. Anyway, gosh, I don't know what the heck happened. My throat's dry. Bear with me a second. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to be coughing in you guys' ears. I had to mute my mic there. But anyway, that was a great question. Yes. So also because the stems and leaves are primarily under the flowers, they're a little bit under the shadow of the flowers. So the flowers, you're going to see more of the you're going to get to see more of the sunlight, where the sun or the light, wherever the light's coming from, it's going to affect the flowers themselves more than they do the stems or the stems and leaves, because those are underneath your flowers. Okay. You are a realist, my friend. Great question, though. Yes, that's more of a realism thing as well. If you are wanting to create something much more realistic, then you really would pay attention to those things, right? So, but anyway, great question. Okay, so let's take a look. So we just added some highlights in that purple. Now I'm going to take some pink, just a lightish pink. Okay, I've got a little bit here. I'm gonna let me add it. So I grabbed a little bit of pink right here. Now I've got a little purple left in my brush. Actually, I'm going to move it over to the other plate that I was just working with. So I'm going to take my gob of pink, bring it over here. Okay. Then I'm going to grab just a touch of that purple that I was just using. And I'm going to mix the two. So I have kind of an in-between color. Now I'm going to take this. And again, I've picked my spots. Here. Maybe in there. A little bit. At the tips. Here. Okay, maybe in here. Here a bit. If there's time, I've got some portraits that I've done in a realistic, a combination of realism and impressionism. I'll show you guys in a while. I know some of you guys have already seen them, but most of them I have stored away. But I do have some here in the studio. Some of the portraits that I used to do when I was doing commissions with portraits. Oops, a little too much purple there. Let's grab some more pink. And you might need a smaller brush for this, but I'm just going through adding a few little highlights near the tops of the flowers, and then finding little spots here and there on the inside. Again, folks, if you have questions, please ask them. There's no right or wrong question here, and I love answering questions. Especially if you're newer. If you're newer to the group, a bunch of friendly people here. Built up a pretty good little community of friendly people. Every once in a while, we'll get somebody that's a little rude, and I end up booting them out, but it's really, really rare. Maybe a couple times. That's happened. I'm just mixing a little bit of the red with the pink. I want a little bit of a swirly action in there. And I'm just going to come in here and add little touches here and there. Again, there's a randomness here. Maybe on this side. Over there. Okay. All right. Karen, so Painting with Jesse here on Facebook. Okay. Simply go to the page, Painting with Jesse, Jesse, and follow the page, and you're here. Okay. You'll get all the updates and things like that. Make sure your notifications for the page are activated so that you get to see every time I post something new. And I'm constantly posting stuff. I try to stay active, but we're doing at least one painting session a week. I like to do 2, and 3 is even better. Okay, let's see. So Arlene says, tried to make purple with red and blue turned burnt red. So here's the thing. Arlene. So what happened is you had too much red in your mixture. So add a little bit more blue to it. Okay. So add a little bit more blue to your mixture, and then add a little bit of white. Then you're going to have a nice light purple. So red, blue. It also depends on the shades of red and blue that you've got, but for the most part, it's equal parts blue and equal parts red, but you might have to tint it one way or the other. You start with that, and then you introduce your white. So you said you had burnt red, you had too much red in there. Okay, so add a little bit more blue. But yeah, yellow flowers would look great too. It just depends on your background. What color is your background? Okay. Okay, so we're pretty much done with the tulips. I'm going to take a little step back. And do I need to add a little bit more black here or there? I could go in there and refine things a little bit more, maybe adding, let's say, pick some spots where I want to add just red. Let me see if I got a little too much pink in my... It's cleaning up my brush a little. So I'm just taking a look at my tulips, and I'm just going to come over and maybe add a little bit more red here and there. Some of these red parts look a little washed out. So before we add some glitter to this thing, I want to make sure that, you know, things look nice. They're ready for the glitter. We're not going to add glitter just yet. Going to work down in here a little bit, and then we're ready for that glitter. Remember that the glitter is going to cover up a lot of this, right? So part of this project was that, again, the glitter part. And glitter goes a long way. I'm just refining. Now I'm going to add a little bit more red and black together. Just kind of poke around a little bit here and there. Okay. Okay. Shirley says, I'm a first timer. I think I did pretty good, but I could use practice. Practice makes perfect, Shirley. Practice makes perfect. Okay, so awesome. Awesome, awesome. Okay. Before we're going to refine our stems here in a bit. I want to clean, I'm going to change the color down here a bit by making it slightly gray. Slightly, when I say slightly, you'll see what I'm talking about here, but it will make an impact. Across in front of my camera here, I should have just grabbed my plates and put them over on this side. I'm using a lot of plates today. So some white. I'm going to remix what's down in here, but I'm going to add a touch of, could even add a little bit of brown in there. Maybe I'll do that. Just a touch of brown. We'll see. Changing things on the fly here. It's a little bit of black. Whoops, too much. Don't need that much. So I'll show you guys what I'm doing here in a moment. I'll show you guys my palette. Okay, excuse me a second. Got to reach over for my brown. Okay, instead of brown, I'm actually going to use awesome Grandma Carol. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So instead of brown, I'm actually going to use a deep burgundy. Just again, you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. I'm mixing some color for what I'm going to do, the changes that I'm going to do to the table, my tablecloth. Don't need a lot. So back to my number one. My 1-inch brush, not my number one, my 1-inch brush, this guy right here. Clean it up a little. So I've got some white right here. Okay. Let's bring most of that down. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of black. Don't need a lot. Want to turn this slightly tinted gray, slightly. I'm going to take some of my burgundy now. Kind of deep burgundy. Mix the two together. I was going to use brown, but that's all right. Now I decided to use this. And then I slowly, usually when I'm mixing colors, I'll take the darker color and introduce it to the lighter one a little bit at a time. A little bit goes a long way, and it will make a difference very, very fast. So always go slowly when you're adding that dark color to the lighter color. Okay. Now I'm going to take some of my purple. Don't need a lot. And we're going to mix those. See how quickly that little bit of purple made a big impact? So again, a little bit of the darker color at a time. The pigment that's in there, it really depends, right? Too much, Jesse. Don't go that crazy. Now I need a little bit more black. There we go. We're getting there. So that's about the color that I'm looking for. Maybe a little darker. We're almost there, folks. We're almost there. We are at 5:33, so just a few more minutes. About maybe 30 more minutes and we're done. And that includes glitter and everything. Just going to go through here really quickly and touch this up down here. So I'm going to start right here in the middle. Again, I wanted a little bit more of a gray color down here. Okay, so we're starting there. That's my kind of in between color. Now I'm going to grab more white. And that white is going to get added over here. So there's white. There's still that mixture that I have over here is still in my brush. And I'm picking up white over the top of that. Crisscross pattern. Somebody asked me if I had a membership page earlier, and I do have one coming where we're going to get more into detail about stuff. But details on that later, once I got it all figured out. Okay, a little darker, comes over this way. We're going to have Zoom sessions. You get to see each other if you guys want. You have your cameras off too, right? You can show me your paintings while we're painting so that I can go, oh yeah, you need to do this or you need to do that or try this. There won't be the delay. Sometimes when you guys put your comment in the, I'm still going to be doing the lives on Facebook and on YouTube. That's not. But I'm going to be adding Zoom sessions where instruction's a little bit easier. So same concept from earlier. Dark side is over on the left, light side over on the right. I'm using swirly paint, right? I can see colors. It's not perfectly blended. That's what I want for this painting. I'm not looking for a perfect blend. I do want a nice transition from one side to the other. There we go. And lots of other perks for the membership thing. But again, I'm working on that and I'm figuring things out right now. Really early stages. Something I've been looking at for quite some time. Thinking about planning. But our live sessions still going to continue. Okay, so light to dark transition. Because of this style that I'm using, you don't need a perfect blend between two areas, between two, like a really clean transition. That's a little bit harder to do, and I've got plenty of videos where we've done that in the past. I'm going to have more of those blending. I'm actually going to have some specific blending tutorials. So we'll take like an orange or something. We'll draw the orange and we'll paint it. And we'll paint a shaded side over to a light side, a really clean, smooth blend. Something like that's coming. Got lots of stuff coming. So what about our shadow? The shadow underneath the pot. Well, I'm gonna take a little bit of purple. Do I still have any burgundy left? I sure do. A little bit, not a lot, but let me get some more here. Time flies, doesn't it? Before you know it, 2.5 hours have passed. And we're still painting. Like take our time here, go into the details. Just taking some black, burgundy, a little bit of purple. Okay, now my shadow. So the handle's on this side. I'm not going to put the shadow over here, right? Shadow's on this side. So I'm just going to come maybe right in here. Shadow starts to come out. Sun, let's say that the sun is, or the light source is right about over here somewhere. Okay. Wait, hold on a second. I got it wrong. Right over here. So not too, it's further this way. The further over you have your sun or your light source, the longer your shadow becomes. Come over. So I'm just going to come out and do this. Then directly underneath the pot is where the darkest shadow would be. Right along that edge is where the darkest part would be. If you ever look like at a standing car, it's in the sun. If you look at the shadow underneath, around the edges, as it gets further away from the car, you'll start to see it lightening up. But closest to the bottom, directly underneath, of course, is the darkest part. A little bit of realism in this painting. Okay. I know that's more dramatic. That's a cooler, at least that elongated part where you see the handle kind of come out. Okay, something like this. Doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe study a plant in your house. See how the shadow plays off of it. And I'm just imagining it on mine. And recreate it. Just keep in mind, again, what you're looking at is that it gets lighter the further out from the object your shadow is. So darker towards the base or toward the body of the object. And it's lighter as it goes out. Okay. Again, that's how I imagine it. Now I am going to put some of these little guys here are shadows for the flowers that are kind of hanging out the edges. So I'm just going to add a couple. I'm going to play with it a bit. So again, dipping it back. I'm going to add a little white in there too. Mix the two colors together a little bit. Still using my 1-inch brush. You guys notice that, right? My big brush. So let's say we got maybe this little tulip red here. Pops out red here. Can you guys see what I'm doing? Yep. Comes out like that. Its head. Kind of see it a little bit. Let me give you guys a close-up in a moment. See, I love Impressionism. These brush strokes and just really cool stuff. But there's a little shadow for that one. Maybe this one a little bit. Just a touch. Okay. And maybe we got a little stem sticking out the back. Okay. That's all you really need to do for the shadows. That gives a lot of realism to the piece, right? Now you've got this light source coming. It's giving you a shadow on the bottom. With the painting would be perfectly fine without it. You got it, Jill. My pleasure. Okay, don't forget to send me a picture, please. Okay, please send me a picture. Duina says, what would happen if you added a black or brown outline around the heart and the pot? I don't understand using purple on a red tulip. I can understand using burgundy, reds, and pinks of various shades. Let's see, but where does purple fit in? It's an impressionistic painting. It's your painting. You get to create whatever you want with it. Art is art. So it sounds to me like you've got more of a realistic bent, and that's absolutely perfect and wonderful. But yeah, art is whatever you want it to be. So sometimes it is difficult to understand, to get it kind of, how does your brain's trying to wrap itself around what it's looking at. And that's just how that works. But yeah, you could, if you, so your question is, let's see, if I wanted to outline the heart and the pot, you could outline, so what colors did you use? Do we know what colors did you use for the pot, and what colors did you, I'm assuming you use red for the heart. So if you're going to outline anything you can, it'll make it pop out and stand away from the background. And outlining is perfectly fine. But yeah, kind of up to you. Black, would you say black or brown to outline around the heart and the pot? You could. You want to, but experiment a little bit. Start with a little bit of an area first, okay, before you actually proceed, and start really thin. The thinner the better. In case you don't like it, it's easier to take off. I would start with brown though, because black's harder to remove. But anyway, again, great questions. There are just so many different styles of painting out there. Look up Impressionism. Okay, look up Impressionism if you're not familiar with it. This has just a nice mixture in there for those that can appreciate the Impressionism, but not everybody. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Okay, but yeah, I totally get it. But okay, so there is our shadow down on the bottom. We got the transition from dark to light. There's a transition in our pot from dark to light. One thing I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to outline the rim. I'm going to do some refinements to the leaves and the stems, just real quick basic ones. Taking my number one, my 1-inch flat brush, and I'm just going to just the edge of the rim just a little tiny bit. Let's see, especially over here, there's a bit of a, whoops, too thick. There's a bit of a shadow underneath the brim, okay, because it does kind of stick out since we do have a light source. Just a little tiny bit. Switching brushes, actually, I'm going to do it with the smaller brush. It's really interesting, right? Because art, yeah, there's an understanding something that your brain sometimes is looking for, and yeah, that's just one of those things that you kind of work your way through, or you find the style of art that'll fit into that. But I still would most definitely recommend pushing the boundaries a little bit so that you can kind of flex your brain a bit. You stretch it a bit, and who knows, maybe by doing it, even if it's not necessarily something that you're enjoying, you're still giving your brain some of that exercise. But it is definitely about finding what appeals to your tastes. As I was mentioning earlier, I think I was saying, some people love abstract painting. Abstract painting is cool. I enjoy looking at some of it, but I don't necessarily feel drawn, no pun intended, to make it. And the interesting thing is that I feel that I would probably not quite know exactly how to approach an abstract, except for maybe start throwing paint on a canvas, right? And seeing what happens and then kind of going from there, because I've never really tried it. But yeah, that's just how that goes. Some people really love it. Some people are excellent at making abstract paintings. And my brain will go, I wonder wonder what they're looking at. I wonder what they're seeing as they're making it, right? So got to find what you like and go for it. And I should take my own advice, right? As far as the abstracts. And if I do have time, I think eventually I will. But I'd like to try out that medium just to see what the experience is like. But try it out. But okay, I just put a little light side there on the handle on the other opposite side. Okay, just like that. Little tiny bit. Let's look at those stems and the leaves. Let's see, Charlene. Let's see. Your first picture you painted has a really cool look. That makes it seem. Which one was that, Charlene? I'm trying to remember which one that was. There's so many paintings now. Okay. Too funny. So as far as the color of glitter, Denise, what I like to do is I'd like to try to match the colors on the painting kind of close. You don't have to. You can experiment. Art is often about experimentation, but by trying to match, for example, I've got some red glitter that I'll be adding to the tulips, and then some green that I've got that I'm going to be adding to the stems. But you could, there's a pearl or crystal color that would go perfect over anything pretty much, including down in here. There's purple glitters, there's gold glitters. Now, earlier I was talking about my background. I think I like my background the way it is. If I wanted to go in there and touch it up, add a second layer over the top, I could. Kind of making it, maybe adding some little lighter texture and more textured, but I think I like it the way it is. I like that contrast. So I won't be doing a second layer. If you'd like to do a second layer, of course, that's entirely up to you. So I'm going to take a little bit of green and a little bit of black. Just making a, this time I'm going to, grabbing some white in there with that too. Green and black. Here we go. Hold on 1 second. I grabbed a little too much. I accidentally grabbed some white. I was trying to dilute it, but that wasn't going to work. So green, a little bit of black. There we go. So this is going to be the darkest part of the stems. Okay. Darkest part of the stems. So right in here. So again, if you guys want to, if you haven't yet, and you guys want to see some of my, I think I've got 2 or maybe 3 paintings in here of my portraits. These are oil portraits that I did a few years back, maybe about 8-9 years ago. I was doing a lot of commissions before I started doing my paint parties. I was doing commission work. When I started doing my in-person paint parties, that really just took off and took over most of my free time. So I had to give up my portraits for a bit. I'll eventually get back to them because I love that. I love figurative art, figurative work. It's coming in here and again making some of the darkest parts. And then the other thing about art, rules are meant to be stretched, broken, experimented with. Some people get really stuck on, nope, there's only one way to paint. Not so. How do I know? Well, because I paint. And you can, some people are really sticklers for, you paint from light to dark or dark to light when you're painting, for example, a face. Some people will say, no, we do the dark parts of the face first. Then we start to add all the other values, slowly increasing from dark to light. But there's successful artists that break rules all the time. So, you it just depends a little bit on you, your style, what you like. Sometimes people are looking for an exact rule book. How do you approach every painting? There's different approaches. All right, just going through and adding a little bit more green to the stems down here. Just taking some dark green. Just finding little spots here and there to emphasize. So you guys see that leaf back there? That one's in the background. That one way back there, it's in the background. Leaving those alone. By doing that, I create depth. Also, by making your paint a little thick in some spots, thinner in other parts, you create some dimension. Okay. So there's our painting. Okay, I'm gonna add some glitter. A few rules about glitter for those of you that are new to it. You want to make sure you add glitter only to areas that are dry. Otherwise, your glitter will mix in with the paint and make it. It'll make the glitter cloudy. So I've got some red right here. Okay, some glitterific that I pick up at Hobby Lobby. You can also order this from Amazon. This is really clumpy glitter. I'll show you guys in a second what that looks like. It's so clumpy, I put it down like this, face down on, so it starts to move to the top. Okay, now I got this green glitter from Glitterific. So let me squeeze some of this out. We'll actually start with this one. Let me clean up one of my brushes. I'm going to grab I'm going to use one of my little flat brushes here. Small one. Just going to grab a bunch of this. I'm using a clean brush here. I don't want there to be any paint in this. Now, normally I'd pour this onto a plate and go from there. But I'm going to take this, again, dry areas first. So maybe I shouldn't have started. Give me a second, folks. I'm going to dry this. Had to use my blow dryer sometime. All right. So that's what a blow dryer comes in the painting studio comes in handy for. So the stems and the leaves that I want to stand out are going to get some of this glitter. So I don't go through and add it to every single stem, right? You could if you want, but I like to use this as an accent for things that I want to stand out. For example, right in here. I just spread that right on. Okay. So let's see another spot. This one right here. I'm just grabbing this glitter like this, gobbing it onto my brush, and away we go. Okay. Right over here. Okay, let's see. On the stem in this one, for this I'm going to go ahead and push the bristles together so that they're a little thinner. Okay, let me show you what that looks like up close. Okay, look at the difference. Right, you see that? See how that's starting to really pop? That's a really cool effect. Okay, now you could do every stem and every leaf if you'd like, but instead I suggest picking a few little spots here and there. Pick your spots. Pick your spots. Okay. So again, Glitterific is this brand. I also use Craft Twinkle. That's probably my favorite brand to use. Craft Twinkles is from Michaels. And then this Glitterific is from Hobby Lobby. Take your pick. For those of you that are leaving me, please remember to send me a picture of your masterpiece. Also, you know, if you're a mama, if you're a mother, have a wonderful Mother's Day. If you have a mama, please, happy Mother's Day to her. Whatever you guys are doing, I'll be spending my Sunday with my mama and my aunts, some cousins. Now I'm going to take some of this red. We're going to be painting, doing a little painting. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to add it mostly on the brighter parts where there's red. Look at this already. Watch this. Look at that flower. Look at that head on that flower. Really big difference. Let me see if I can get you a close-up. Look at that. Okay. Really does make a nice difference. So on this part, I'm just going to add it to this whole area right here. Why not? Pick your spots. You don't want it. You could add it to everything, like I said, but if you want things to stand out, you want to highlight some things, that's where you add it. Right in here. It's a good spot for that. Okay, right in here. Now, if you decided to paint your tulips in a different style, or you already have kind of you knew you were going to paint with your tulips, please send me your picture anyway. I'm happy for people to get creative and change things up. So please send me what you created. Again, Painting with Jesse here on Facebook. Just message me, send that over as an attachment. You can email me at paintingwithjesse@gmail.com. It's another way for me to get those. Either one is fine. But what I do is I'll share those with everyone. I'll take a big batch and share it. So here I'm just clumpy glitter. Got a bunch on my brush here. Trying to mostly stay inside where the same shades of the reds and the dark reds are. Okay, right in there. Over here. You could also, if you wanted to, use this as like sparkling light, right? Light wherever the lighter side is. Maybe you concentrated this only on the light side. You could. Or maybe you put it over everything. Like the heart, for example, everywhere on the heart. So we're just about done here. I'll show you a close-up. If you had crystal glitter, which I do have some, but if you had crystal glitter or pink glitter, you could go through. I could add some of this pearl glitter. I could add it to the pot. I could add it here to the tips of the flowers, whether it's a lighter area. You could really have a lot of fun with this glitter. Okay, take a look. Look at that. Okay. Duino, which one? This one? You like this one better than this one? Is that what you mean? I'm not sure. I think that's what you're saying. Okay, fantastic. So that's it for our session today, except for a couple of things. If you'd like to paint your edges, the very last thing that you would do after you sign it, because you would sign it first, and then you would paint your bottom edge. Okay? Yeah, glitter Mod Podge. That will work. You can mix glitter bits, right? Glitter flakes, mix them in glue, Mod Podge, and shake it up really good. And that's all this is. That's all this stuff is glitter floating around in the glue. So exactly. Okay. Cool, Duina. Duina. Fantastic. So you sign your piece. And what I like to do is often I'll use a color that's in the painting. For example, I could take a red or a purple, etc. Most artists like to sign their painting down towards the bottom. Okay. You could also take a completely different color, like let's say a light blue would look really nice on this. A dark blue would look really nice on this. Speaking of which, I don't have any near me, so I'll take some red. Red is just fine. I'll use a round brush, a little skinny round brush. Now, you notice I had these handy. You could use these to add details to your stems and things like that, which is why I put them on the supplies list. Some people like to use these really small brushes. But it's going to come over on the opposite side. Why not? It's a little lighter. I like to sign with my last name, but you can sign with your first name, with your initials, etc. Up to you. No, Valerie, I did not. So I did not add to the yellow background. I decided I wasn't going to do that. I could. Let's say that I wanted to come in and add a second layer of paint to this. So this, you notice this is a lot brighter. I kind of like that look, especially for a Mother's Day theme. It just kind of brightens it up quite a bit. I could come in here and use the same color, that kind of bright yellow orange, and add into the background. It's just a brighter painting. I think that's what people are attracted to right now. This one is looking a little brighter than that. Okay, that one's a little bit more of a dulled down version, let's say, if you could look at it that way. Because of the background, everything's just a little bit more muted. That's it, muted, not dulled, but muted. So this brighter background, I like it. But I could go in there if I wanted to and do another layer on this. And the way that I would do it, I'm just going to really quickly go over the process in case some of you are needing to do that. I would mix my paint. If you're mixing paint, you'd make your mixture. It doesn't have to match exactly. What happens though is you do want to make sure you mix enough to be able to cover the entire background all in one shot. So you would take your mixture. Let's say I've got a bunch of this yellow right here. So I wanted to scoop up a bunch of it, and I would start. First, I would do my outlines. Let's say, for example, and I'm going to do this part really quickly. I'm going to grab this because I've got some pencil line coming through there. Okay, I would just kind of start with my edges, and then I would start. All I'm doing is layering over everything that I've already got, right? I would just kind of go through. It's a lot more difficult to get in between flowers, but I would use a smaller brush to get in between all those little sections. And they're just, just going in there and adding a layer over the top of everything. Then you'll take this, same thing, all the way around, being careful with your edges on your flowers. You can create some really cool effects by coming right up to the flower edge, kind of like this, and pulling away, kind of doing like this, playing with it a little bit. If you've got a slightly different color, that can make some really cool, neat effects. But you would just go through this entire painting and do that second layer. If you need it, that's how you would do it, okay? But all right, everyone. I really appreciate all of you guys being here. Remember, there's a lot of stuff coming our way. Next week, and I don't have the painting with me. I thought I brought it. I paint a lot from home. Then I bring them into the studio. A hummingbird piece. It's a pretty realistic hummingbird for those of you that are interested in more realism. It's more complicated. Realism tends to be a little more complicated for some of you. But I've got a hummingbird piece that is in next week. I'm doing a pre-prep video sometime by Monday, if not by tomorrow. I'm trying to do it by tomorrow. Maybe early in the morning I'll get it in. Pre-prep video for that where I teach you how to draw the hummingbird from scratch. Go to the event page here on Painting with Jesse on Facebook. If you go to the main page on Facebook under Painting with Jesse, go to the top. You'll see, I think you'll see the events tab at the top. Click on that. Or you might have to click on the more tab. It drops down. You'll see events. Click on that. You'll see what's coming up. We got a really cool hummingbird. That's more realistic, like I said. It's going to be a little complex, but this was pretty complex. Sunflower, bees, the week after. Okay. Then we've got some turtles. And then we've got, let's see. What else do we got? Trying to remember what the other ones are. Oh, a pineapple. We're doing a really cool pineapple. Then we're doing some more turtles, but a different style with an ocean and all this other stuff. Then you saw the piece that I pointed out earlier with the tree and this guy right here. that's going to be put on the calendar, but I've got others. I've got other stuff coming up. So just be on the lookout. If you haven't yet, please make sure you like and follow the page so you guys stay up to date on everything, okay? The only way to keep up is by making sure you guys are getting those notifications, and you do that by following the page, okay? But all right, everyone, dragonfly painting. I'll check to see if there was a session on it. No dragonfly. Dragonfly, no. Dragonfly? Do we have a dragonfly? I'm trying to remember. No dragonflies in that. Oh, the portraits. Let me see. I got to grab them here real quick. Give me a sec while I take this off. Give me one moment. All right. So these are some children's portraits that I did. Like I said, this was about 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, maybe even. And these are in oil. Now I have adult portraits, and I've got a lot of figurative paintings that I made back then. I don't have them here in my studio. My studio's kind of limited in space, so I keep those in storage. But I do have some here, and I'll show them to you. Again, these are oil. These are in oil. Okay, we'll start with this little guy right here. Okay, so this is a realism with some impressionism in there. You can see my brush strokes, and but yeah, so freehand drawing and then painting right over that. Okay, little guy right here. So there's that guy there. Look at all that little detail. It took me a long time, quite a few hours to create this piece. Whoa, sorry. Give me a sec, folks. Give me a sec. Thought this was. Sorry about that. I thought my phone was on silent. But anyway, a lot of detail in this. Probably about 40 hours worth of work around that. It does take a long time to create something like that. Then here's another one, another little kid. I was getting lots of commissions for kids paintings, but I know it's a little washed out because of the light. But there's that one there. Okay, that one was probably about 20 hours worth of work. Lots of details, lots of shading, lots of blending. Okay. Then this one's a much more freehand style. The one I'm about to show you, this one was only probably about maybe 8 hours worth of work. But like I said, I used to get a lot of. Actually, this one's a cousin of mine's. Let's see, my cousin's daughter's little girl, and I did this. There was a little picture that they posted that was really nice. I really liked, and I just did that. And then I made a bunch of prints of it, and I gave them out as gifts. But I've got a lot of them. I've painted some dogs and grandparents, and I've painted figurative pieces where you have whole body, not just faces. But yeah, that's a big passion of mine. I really liked that kind of painting. And eventually I'll get back to that. And who knows, maybe eventually I'll be doing some tutorials on those as well. Those are a lot harder to do, but super enjoyable. It's a progression. A lot of drawing involved in that, right? You want to be able to, to do those freehand, you obviously need a lot of drawing ability. Luckily, I grew up drawing. I kind of went through the frustrating process of learning how to draw when I was really young. Kind of taught myself through comic book, I draw comic book characters and sharks and dinosaurs from dinosaur books, things like that. But I remember the struggles. I remember a lot of times I'd be drawing something and the head was too large. It looked like what it was supposed to be, but the head was too large for the body, or vice versa. The head was too small for the body. Hands were too large. Hands were tough. But all those things through practice, you eventually do overcome them. So, but all right, everyone. Margie, the good thing is that you enjoyed them, okay? That you enjoyed the session. I'm happy that you were here. Thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. Frustration is going to be part of it, right? But it looks like you enjoyed yourself. Sorry, I'm not saying that you were frustrated, but you're saying you messed up a lot. That's okay. Be kind to yourself. Go easy on yourself. Plenty of time to practice, plenty of time to get more sessions in. There are, like I said, about 90 videos on this page if you're interested in going and checking those out. But all right, Anna Alfano says, beautiful. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Charlene. Donna Helm says, awesome. Duina, thank you, Duina. And thank you all for being here. Like I said, I really appreciate it. There's still about 45 of you still hanging out. Fantastic. Thank you, Jesse, says Barbara. I've given myself grace and I like my painting. Happy Mother's Day all. Happy Mother's Day to everyone. That's exactly it. Please go easy on yourselves. It's a labor of love. That's how you have to look at it, at this as a labor of love. You enjoy doing it, then don't worry about it. Just do it. Trust that you will get better. Some of you are going to progress more slowly than others. Some of you are going to go more quickly than others. Some of you are going to pick up how to make flowers really quickly, and then you're going to struggle with water. Some of you are going to be excellent in making water and struggle with flowers. That's how this goes. But the more you practice, the better you get, and that's what this is for. So everyone, thank you so much for being here. Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there, and please stay tuned. And, make sure you're liking and following the page so you guys know what's coming. All right. Bye to everybody. Have a good night. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of the day, an awesome Friday, and then an awesome weekend. You got it, Arlene. All right, Pamage. Says, I had a lot of fun except for the shadow. Shadows can be tricky. Cheryl Boyce, you got it. My pleasure. Thank you for being here. All right, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a good night.